Does he have it?
Medeiros is going to get it.
They're going to toss it. They haven't got it.
He's on the outside line though, going into the fastest corner on the circuit. Surely this can't work.
Dominic Ligner has got a sensational run outside line now though for the heavy braking zone. Around the outside goes the Audi R8.
Look how much Miller's caught back into play. Exactly, Miller's still start trouble. He's not on second and change. All of a sudden, Miller's back in play.
Can Barry do it? Big Barry's going to do it. Big Barry! Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are here for the 1964 VW Historics. And where are we going? We've decided to sit them on the Nürburgring, or traditionally known as the Green Hell. I am James Parfitt. I'm going to be joined in the booth by Bradley Dalton very, very shortly, with Mr. Paul Glover in the background as always. What an exciting race we should have ahead of us. Let's pick up on the calendar at this moment in time. It is the Nürburgring. We have got 100 minutes of the Nürburgring here as well this evening for you to enjoy. We then head off to Monza on the 26th of October, Bridgehampton on the 16th of November, and the Provence Alps Hill Climb on the 30th. And then, of course, we round off the season for 100 minutes at Paris. Let's have a look at the track. Well, 14.19 miles, 22.83 kilometers of what can only be described as, well, it could lead to a lot of deaths this evening. This track is not easy. I've seen a lot of people go off in practice, and unfortunately, well, it's not been easy. Let's pick up on the keys to the race at this moment in time. They've got to start off with being comfortable with the track. Cautions through the multi-class. Well, that's going to be it. And I can tell you one thing, they've got to stay focused. If they're not going to be focused for this circuit, well, they're going to end up in one of the walls. Let's pick up on the strategy corner for the Div 3s here currently at the moment. 20 to 27 minutes they're going to last. 2 to 4 stops they're going to need to get through this. And all the cars are fairly equal. They're going to maximize corner exit, slipstream, and conserve fuel. What about the Div 1 and Div 2? Well, they're only going to go 15 to 20 minutes, so it's going to be interesting to see if they even get 2 laps out here. Mind you, they're going 8-minute 47s. 4 to 5 stops, again, always, as always, all fairly equal on the cars. Maximize corner exit, slipstream, and conserve the fuel again. Let's pick up on the points here as well. Well, it's going to be very interesting for the Div 3s, I can tell you that much. Bradley Sellers is leading the way currently on 55.9. JT Tummy in second, Nicholas Kirstens in third, with Magnus Dahlgren in fourth, Wouter de Bruin in fifth, Ethan Funk in sixth, Timon Suvic in seventh, then Ross Smith, Tom Lane and Mike Bell. In the teams, it's Smile Power Racing out in front, with ME Racing in second, and Rookie Monsters sitting down in third place. Div 3 AMS then, we kick off, and it's Jerry Chen leading the way, with George Angelidis in second, John Meyer in third, Barry DeMarzo, Jason Whitehead, Dave Kors and Jaroslav Zagic in seventh place. Flying Kiwi Racing leading the way, with Scudiera Cavelli Ferrari in second place in the team standings. Div 1 2 AMS, it is Adam Gray currently leading the way on 63.9. Then we've got Eric Monet in second, Michael Locke in third, James Bowders in fourth, then Tom Mountjoy, Santiago Dancourt, Fernando Fernando Ferreira and also Luke Goodlife. Philippe Marazzi and David Bakker-Kelleron is in 10th place. Div 1 and 2 pros. Let's have a look at the 1 and 2 pros. Elko Busanic is out in front by 7 points over Dan Hurlock, with Ben Borman sitting in 3rd. Reese Gardner in 4th, Becky Ely in 5th. Then you've got Cameron Barker, Dan Kirby, David Juden, Oliver Day and Luca Tavanari finish off the top 10. You can see everybody below that, 11 to 23 on the right-hand side. Joy Motorsports in 1st in the teams on 65, with Mike Bell Motorsports in 2nd, not too far back at all. They're in fact 2.2 points there as well. Fontiago Monsters in 3rd, Alpha Australia Salvictus in 4th, Mistral 747, Lufthansa, Porsche and Black Knight Racing round out the team standings. Well, after going through all of that, we can bring in Mr. Bradley Dalton into the booth with us as well. Brad, welcome in, bud. How are you?
Yeah, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. I'm doing pretty well. I can't complain. It's nice to be here at the Nürburgring, the Nordschleife, the Green Hell, whatever you know it as. It's a challenge, it's excitement, and it's a struggle. It's one that you really, I know we said it, but you have to be comfortable with this track. And if you're not comfortable with this track, you're going to have a very, very bad day top to bottom. We're going to see a lot of drivers struggle. We're going to see these cars that traditionally we see run super well in a straight line. They're going to have to navigate some pretty tricky sectors. And I'm curious to see how everyone handles that from top to bottom.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when you have a look at on the track on this one, Brad, that, you know, we're used to high curbs at Nords, and that's what they've got to deal with. Here, we haven't quite got that, you know, and at the end of the day, it's very flat. On the outside is basically just, well, grass and a wired fence. That's it, basically. That's all they've got to contend with here. Now, I know there's some controversy about the circuit. A lot of people don't love it. Obviously, in these historics, to be honest with you, you know, I wouldn't love it either, to be blatantly honest. It's bad enough running around there in a modern day GT3, let alone running through in a 1964 car, which looks like a skateboard with 4 wheels that Ben Borman's repping in at this moment in time in that Lotus 23B. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. We've only got 26 on the race circuit. I'm predicting we probably could lose 5 to 10 of them easily.
Yeah, and I think the big challenge really looking through has been fuel load. And that, I think, is going to be the biggest challenge for most of these historics. Is traditionally we see them with smaller fuel loads. And as you mentioned, James, I mean, there's the possibility we could see some of these guys only go 1 to 2 laps on a load of fuel. And that's a pretty significant amount of time. So we'll see how the drivers handle it. It is something different. It's not something that they're really going to be used to in terms of the track and in terms of the layout. And we'll see how the fireworks come together at the end of the day.
Yeah, I really honestly feel they've got to be careful. If they even want to remotely complete this race, they have got to sit back and chill out. Because otherwise it's just going to be an absolute nightmare. I've got to be honest. There's going to be, as I say, predicting out the 26, we're probably going to only have maybe 15 to 20 are going to finish this race. I can't see it going any other way. It's so tough. It's so tight. And in this old layout, it's going to be even more tighter, the Brad. And I just think that they've got to not worry about where they are on the racetrack, not worrying about winning, worrying more about fighting, battling the race circuit and finishing the race.
This is as much a battle with the track as it is, and with yourself as it is a race with competitors. And the big key to me for the Nordschleife is don't go in expecting to win. Don't go in expecting to be the fastest. Go in with the goal of consistency. That is where you've got to be with things. And if you're not there, then you might as well just not show up. If you're not okay with not being the fastest, but being the smoothest, the most consistent, again, in cars that can handle pretty much like a handful sometimes, then what's the point of showing up?
I fully agree, and I think at the end of the day, even when we did, I do officials and other sims, when they put Nords in, I sit in the pits and wait 30 seconds because you can guarantee half the field's crashed out by the time you get into the first part of it. So it's just easier that way. But we are joined by Mr. Ross Smith. We can have a chat with Ross, and he can tell us how his experience will be of the Nords. Ross, welcome in, bud. How are you?
Good, everybody. How's it going in here?
We're all good, mate. We're just discussing more racing the circuit than the people in and around you. What do you think?
That's absolutely true. Yeah, this is absolutely a driver track, and it's very car and driver focused. You're not really doing much door to door. I know that on Tuesday night's MNRL race, we had roving caravans of cars going through sections at a time where you just kind of hold in line and either wait for a mistake or actually just sit there and pace and trying to keep an eye on fuel or tires or whatever your strategy might be. And just make a last dash move towards the end, or you just throw that all out the window and you try and blitz away from the field and get as far away from everybody as you can.
What do you think? What? Okay, so what is your philosophy? What is your outlook on it then, Ross? Because obviously, we've been to Nords. I've been to Nords in multiple different cars, in multiple different things. Hell, I do a weekly Nord series that run the ring every single week, just in different machines. We took an F4 round there last week, but of course that was in a modern day F4. We're talking about 1964 cars that do not stop on a dime. They've got zero aero, zero ABS, zero any brake assist, zero assist, just no assist whatsoever. Drive like house bricks, and don't stop. How do you get them round a circuit that's got practically 160 odd corners on it?
Sideways.
Okay, thanks very much for that.
No, you just I can say from the certainly from the Div 3, getting the momentum right, getting your car's angle and attitude just right, the way that the weight is shifted. It's so important to being able to time the way that you execute each and every corner. And it's exhausting because you got to do it we'll probably out there for 12 laps or so for the Div 3s and just slightly less, maybe 11 laps for the Divs 1 and 2. Although I'm looking at Cameron Barker and some of these other guys, and they're right up there in the mix in terms of timing. So we'll see how long the fuel lasts, how long the tires last. But yeah, as the race goes on, I think Bradley was absolutely correct in saying that you just have to focus on trying to stay consistent. Don't get caught up thinking like, oh man, I botched that corner, I went off the track here. I mean, even if you go off the side, you hit a fence or something, just shake it off and keep going, because you've got to stay on it. 12 laps, 100 minutes of this thing, 100 probably plus. It's gonna take a few people out. This track eats cars, it eats drivers, so you've got to be in the zone as long as you can. You don't lose focus. You've got a long back straight where you have a chance to kind of loosen up the shoulders, shake it off a little bit, grab a drink, whatever you have sitting in the cup holder next to you, and then get ready to dive back in for another one.
Yeah, I think that's it. It's going to be all about track. It's all about the track. I never see Nords as nothing else as a race, because it just can't be. It's got to be about completing it. Now, obviously, we're used to the high curbs on the modern day layout. You haven't got the curbs here, Ross. What's the damage like on the wire fences on the left-hand side? I've seen a lot of people do that in practice and in qualifying. How bad is it, and is it going to cause a lot of people to be out of the race on that situation?
Probably not out of the race, although it does depend on how much you miss your braking points, because certainly doing so here with these cars is way more detrimental than if you do so in a GT3 or a modern prototype. You just sail a little bit deeper into the corner, lose some time. Here you lose your life, but you you definitely have to stay focused on what you're doing. And if you hit one of those fences, a lot of it depends on how you do it, because there is something to say about incident mitigation in terms of just if you get shoved off or it's an unforced error, you can definitely come back from it. You can control roughly how bad it's going to be, or how bad it won't be. I had an incident in qualifying where I actually went off on the that fast uphill section where you're just all out and you're just barely holding on to some of the curves, and it kind of screwed up the car a little bit. But it was just a matter of keeping it pointed in the right direction and hanging on as tight as you can to that bucking Bronco and
Yeah.
try to
I,
see to the other side.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's very, very hard. I know there was a message from George this week who expressed, should we say, his opinion on the race circuit that was not. It was fairly. I'm trying to. Don't, Ross. I'm trying to pick words here. That's not going to get me in trouble. Let's just say it was a fairly open opinion of a man that clearly shows hatred for the Nord circuit.
Oh, he hates this track. Yeah, he despises it, and for the most part, it comes down to it being a driving track. It's like a hot lapping track. It's time trial or rally course, I guess you could say. It's not meant for door-to-door racing, and
Mm.
I would tend to agree with them. Even in the modern configuration, it's it's kind of ludicrous that we have big international races at this place where cars are going door to door. I mean, you have the GP section, so that kind of comes into play somewhat. But once you're on the Nordschleife, it's just you're basically one by one. You can't really do a whole lot of side by side. It happens. Certainly, somebody misses a corner, or something, you can slip up the inside. But yeah, it is polarizing for sure. A lot of the guys here love it just because it can be a lot of fun to drive,
Mm.
especially if you're hitting corner after corner, you're just nailing them and you're going and you're flying along. It feels great. But when you're in a race, it takes on a whole different characteristic the way you're going. And I can say from experience on Tuesday night running behind this guy who's right next to me here, JT Tammy, he was out in front of me and I was basically using him to test strategy for fuel saving, and following so close behind him was just nerve wracking for like 3 or 4 laps at a time, because that's about how many laps you can get in for these Div threes, at least in the Shelby. So it it's totally different from when you're out there by yourself and just kind of wheeling it about.
Mm. All right, let's touch on it. What's Ross Smith's chances?
It's a great question. I'm not entirely certain. I don't know if you saw or talked about what was going on with some of the penalties for the other Div threes.
We were just getting onto them after we spoke to you, Ross. So don't put spoilers out there.
I guess if we're not spoiling it, I can say that a fair number of the top of the field is going to have to come in,
Mm-hmm.
and that's going to open an opportunity to potentially open up some of a gap. But uh, these guys are fast. Certainly, the Ferraris are showing pace here, and I would expect nothing less from them. I mean, they're probably the most nimble Div 3 car that's out here, so they should be able to handle the curves very well. So it's a quick course, and uh, I mean, basically, it's going to be cat and mouse from then on. It's just going to say like, okay, can we open up a big enough gap for what all these guys are penalized for, and can we get away? If that's the case, we could potentially come away with a win, but we still have JT Tammy to contend with. You know, he's that machine just can go forever on a tank of fuel. Um, and certainly we don't really know what the conditions going to be for these cars coming from tires, because certainly with the Div 3s, for as heavy as they are and for as much slinging around as you have to do at this place, the car begins to get sluggish later in the run, and you don't want to lose time changing tires because that's pretty detrimental. But at the same time, you got to mitigate some of the wear on there to try and hold on to those things to the end, because you want to be fast, but you also want to hold on to those tires so that way you don't
Mm.
just fall off a cliff at the end. It's
I,
crazy.
yeah, there's a lot involved here. I think that's going to be the interesting one. One of the things I am interested in, Div 1, Div 2, 15 to 20 minutes on fuel, 8.5 minute lap. Is it going to be the end of every second lap they're going to be in the pit box?
I think you're going to see that for some of them for sure. Now, there is a lot to be said with the way that you can get the slipstreaming in play. So I think some of them might end up being able to conserve a little bit more. I don't know really what strategy is best. I think a lot of it comes down just to the nature and characters of the cars and the drivers themselves and where they're at the beginning of this thing. We're going to do a standing start, so everyone's going to be on top of each other. And I think
Mm-hmm.
as the race evolves, it's going to dictate some people's strategies.
Yeah, I fully agree. Let's move off today. Let's pick up on some of the mod situation. How are we doing on that one, and where are we sitting in conjunction with? Obviously, we know the 64 mod's done. We know the 2024 mod's nearly finished. How are we for next season? How are we for next year?
Well, so there's certainly, from the physics perspective, I think that 24 is done, and 64 is pretty good. There are just some minor things that we might need to touch up before the end. But as far as what we're trying to get done on the modding side, we want to get the 2023 mod out there. I know it's kind of late for that, but it certainly has some cars and it's got some good balance in there that we want to share in the workshop. So we're basically, right now, we're focusing on getting all of the physics updated for the next year's mods, and particularly the new cars that are coming in, both historic and modern. And then we're making some small alterations to the way that we're dealing with certain things, like the all-wheel drive cars. They're getting a change in the way the all-wheel drive is deployed, so that way they look less like rally cars and more like what we expect from hypercars. And we're doing a lot right now in terms of George is on physics. He's working with the testers, and I'm getting templates ready for our artists, so that way they can get all the liveries, like the stock liveries, all up in order, and we can have those files ready for people when we do finally release the mod. And we say, okay, here's what's coming. Here are your files. Go paint away. Get your stuff ready for next year. Get excited. And then in between then and the first races, it's just going to be a ton of cleanup work in the background, just getting everything in order, making sure that all the cars look and feel as good as they can, and then we're into the season.
All right. So when are we going to find out the historic year?
It looks like right now we should be able to do a release announcement at Paris.
Final round of the season.
That's correct. Yes.
It is. You're right. Yes, but you're making me wait nearly 2 months.
Yeah, but don't worry. I mean, other people are aware of what it is right now, so I mean, they won't have to wait.
Yep.
Really? Hold on a minute. So Paul in my ear was just told me he knows. Brad knows, and I don't know. Why the blinking hell don't I know?
Well, I mean, I said before, I've dropped hints all season long at various points about what the next historic would be, and they were able to guess successfully. So, you know, kudos
Brad,
to them. I appreciate
DM me the year.
No.
Brad.
Yes, James.
Brad, you realize what happens at the end of each month?
Yes, I do.
There might be a delay, Brad. On that one. Right. Anyway, thank you very much for your. Listen, Kim's in YouTube chat, right? Appreciate your consistency. We're trying to get info about the next series. Dude, Kim, everybody else apparently already knows, and I haven't got Scooby-Doo. So whether or not I've just really not paid hardly any attention whatsoever to some of the things Ross has said, or I've just really not, I don't know, to be honest with you, Kim. At the end of the day, I'm just still in the dark. All right, Ross. Well, thank you very much for coming in and joining us, you lovely individual. I will pick up, I will hopefully speak to you later on.
I would love it. I would love nothing else than to be able to come back in the booth at the end of this thing with a trophy in hand. It's going to be tough, but yeah, thanks, and enjoy the race.
Thanks, mate. Just let's hope we get more than 15 cars finish.
Yeah, I think it's going to be okay. I think we're going. I mean, it's going to take some out. I think we're going to see a few drop away, but I think we're going to have some good numbers.
All right, Ross. Well, take care, buddy. Have fun.
Thanks.
Well, there you go. Kim, time to notify HR about that threat. No, there was no threat, Kim. You heard it completely wrong on that one. That was merely just a reminder. All right, that was a reminder to Mr. Bradley Dalton there as well. Brad, we've got Gee whiz, hold on, there was a Duracell battery just talking in my ear roll then. So obviously we're coming towards the end of warm-up here, Brad. Obviously, as we know, it's a standing start. There's no green flag. It's going to be very much as it was at Le Mans. It's going to be drop the flag, let's go here as well. Let's see if our producer is ready with the grid, and then we will try and bring you up the grid here. Let's have a look at the grid. Nicholas Kirstens will be in first, Magnus Dahlgren in second. Timon Suvik rolling in third with Bradley Sellers in fourth. That's going to be an interesting one there. Robert Molin in fifth, Ross Smith starting in sixth, Elko Businic in seventh, and Cameron Barker down in eighth. Then we got JT Tammy in ninth, David Junt down in 10th, Daniel Herlock 11th, and Reese Gardner in 12th. We will run you through the penalties, so that is going to change a lot. Oliver Day in 13th, Gilles Lalonde in 14th, Scar Pope in 15th, Ben Borman in that little Lotus 23B Ford, or the skateboard on four wheels. Michael Locke in 17th with Neil Wood in 18th. Then we've got Oliver Newman and Jerry Chen. So Michael Locke there ahead of some of the pros. Then we've got Eric Monet, Santiago Dancourt, Adam Gray, and George Angelidis in 24th. Two more to go, and that one before we get this up and running. Wouter de Bruin, Dan Scott, and Luca Tavanari. Right, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. The race will be up and running. That is a very interesting situation with the grid there. I'm quite impressed how all of them cars bunched up like that, just utilising parts of the circuit on that one. So let's see how they get on. Brad, prediction, how many cars are going to finish at 26?
Starting with 26, I'm going to say the drivers that are here practice 20.
Kirsten's missed the start. Kirsten's missed the start and has dropped down the order. Nicholas Kirstens did not get off the line whatsoever. Magnus Dahlgren has taken up the whole shot going into the first part of the Nord circuit. Bradley Sellers jumped up. Ross Smith is in there, and also Nick Kirstens behind him. But Timon Suvik is another one that's made his way up in the order. Contact with Timon and Ross on that one. I guarantee there was some interesting words coming out right there, but Timon Suvik did manage to stay in third. Magnus Dahlgren starts us off. He goes into the Nords in the lead. Bradley Sellers really wants to get alongside him if he can to try and get in to that section first there, Brad. Nick Kirstens missed the start, Bradley.
Not what you want to do in the beginning of the race. That is not at all what you want to do. I've seen a lot of things in a race start, but that is, in a track like this, a situation like this, that is the most unfortunate thing you could do. And that is, ouch. And we'll see how that pays off across a long race. It's 100 minutes here around, plenty of time to recover, but that's a little bit of a knock to the mindset there early on.
Yeah, absolutely there as well. You can see now that we've got Bradley Sellers chasing down Magnus Dahlgren. Round the right-hander they go. This is the run now all the way down into Flugplatz. The first up over the brow they go. Through the right-hander over the little bridge. Now they're going to be coming up. This could be a jump if they get this enough speed up there. And now around Flugplatz and then on the run down into Arenberg for the very first time here this evening. Dahlgren still out in front. Bradley Sellers in second. Timon Suvik in third. Great little battles going on. Ross Smith behind Nick Kirstens, JT Tammy. They're all in the mix of having a fight here. Ben Borman's in there on that 23B. He's making moves alongside at the moment. He has just cleared Dan Herlock as these guys come running down into Arenberg. Ross Smith is off the circuit there. And that is the thing we talk about, Brad. We talked about completing the race, and Ross didn't even get through after Arenberg.
Yeah, unfortunate off there for Ross early on. And like you said, James, we said it in the beginning. This is a race of survival. You see the car in front. You know there's a car ahead of you that you want to go to. And drivers tend to get that mindset if they see the car ahead, they focus on the car ahead. You can't do that here. You just have to focus on your own drive. So we go around here. There is a quick little slide through. Hold on to it as we can.
Yeah, he did. That's Bradley Sellers live on the circuit at the moment. And then we've got Timon Suvic in third place currently as well. Nick Kirstens, Ross Smith's back on the race circuit, but he's got JT Tammy there behind him. Ben Borman in behind that as well in that 23B. Dan Herlock's there. Ben Borman trying to make moves around JT Tammy at this moment in time. That little skateboard of Ben Borman there. We'll pick it out, see him, bring him up onto the main screen in a minute on that one. Ben Borman is absolutely flying with Dan Herlock tucked in behind him. This is Ross Smith's on the run down into Arenberg. He catches the grass on the way in, catches the grass on the way through, catches the wire fence on the exit. Borman is battling with JT Tammy. They are running physically nearly 3 wide with Dan Herlock in that one as well. You can see Borman tucked up in that 23B, right up behind JT Tammy, who's in that big old Corvette. Ben Borman in the skateboard. He's almost at this moment in time putting it so close at the back end of JT Tammy. He's almost trying to lift him up here as well. Borman having a great little go once more in that little Lotus. There you go, on board with him. You can see he is just smaller. It's like a Rottweiler having a go with a dash out. It's just not going to happen. And in the background, you can see they're side by side as well. That is Robert Molins in the mix. He's casing down on Elko Busanic, just about to dive up the inside there as well. He gets the job done. This is crazy action for the first lap, Brad.
Yeah, and amazingly, yes, this is still the first lap, and we're 5 minutes in here. And I tell you what, one of the things that is standing out to me early on here is Div 1-2 is going to be a toss-up. There is plenty of competition in Div 1-2. Those cars, they're a little bit lower on power, but they're very nimble. They're going to be very, very close to that through this race. Even if it is, they're going to be pit stopping every other lap. The Div 3s have tons of power. They can run for a while, and they have power to run through. The big thing is the Div 3 drivers, can they keep it on track? Div 1-2, it's all about battling here. I'd say focus not on the car around. If you're in Div 1-2, take the advice I gave, throw it out the window, because you probably got someone right on your rear bumper.
Yeah, coming in at the moment onto the muck curve of the right-hander now. These guys flying in. It's going to be that run up into Klein Carousel. Up into Klein Carousel is going to be interesting. Ross and JT Tammy with Timon Suvic on the main screen at the moment. He's chasing down Bradley Sellers. They've gone through Klein's. They're going uphill at the moment into what will be Whipperman, the right-hander, very shortly before they go down into Brunchen. Now, why it's all just quickly, briefly settled down here, Brad, penalties. There is a lot of them. George Angelidis, no qualifying. Tony McCoffin, stop on hold. Cameron Barker, stop on hold. For 10 seconds he's up. Eric Bonet got a stern warning. Wouter de Bruin, stop on hold for 60 seconds for Wouter de Bruin. Stop and hold for 60 for Timon Suvic. Nicholas Kirsten, 60. Mike Bell, 60. Magnus Dahlgren, 60. Johnny Gutierrez, 60. Jeffrey Ellis, 60. Bradley Sellers, 60. Robert Molin, 10 seconds stop and hold. Bradley Sellers and Timon Suvic side by side. Santiago Dancourt got a race probation, and Oli Karjalai stop and hold for 15. Subic's having a go with Sellers. It ain't going to matter. Sellers has got to go into the pits anyway for a stop and hold for 60 seconds, Brad. This table is going to flip completely on its nugget when the likes of the leaders go in, because at the moment, Bradley Sellers has got to go in as well. Dahlgren's got to go in. They're going in for 60 seconds. Timon Suvic is 60 seconds stop and hold. So this whole top four could leave Ross Smith out in the front.
Yeah, Ross Smith getting very, very lucky here. We're catching a quick replay on the screen, and this is George Parfitt.
Arenberg, not loving that. I do love the fact that we've got 2024 dress on the outside in the spectators, but we're in 1964. Time travel, everybody, and they say it's not real. Well, it is in RF2. So Borman is side by side at the moment here as well. He is absolutely having a go with Robert Molin, Dan Herlock in there as well, with Cameron Barker, Elko Businik, and Vuta de Bruin. But again, this table is going to flip on its complete utter head in a minute, as there is going to be pit stops aplenty. Now they've got three laps. It's going to be whether or not they're going to do it on lap 1, lap 2, or the end of lap 3. Personally, Brad, end of lap 2, maybe the end of lap 3 might be the best place for the penalties.
Well, and I mean, honestly, if they're doing a pit stop, they might as well just loop the penalty in with the pit stop. You got to go in anyways. No sense in throwing things away, but some guys might take a slightly different approach. They may have done the math and said, you know what, I can go this many laps on fuel, and if I backtrack, if I stop on the end of lap 1 and move things around, I can save something. These drivers get crafty with strategy all the time. We've got Ben Borman here running side by side with Molin. They are continuing to run around, and they are just not done. Look at the Div 1-2 battle. They are not giving up at all as we run down on that.
Oh, look at Molin side by side there for a brief moment. You cannot crash on this straight. This is the dot in the hole. This is the one that currently in its modern day format is over 1,700 meters long. But Dan Herlock and Robert Molin going side by side into Tiergarten, and Molin made it through. Herlock setting in behind him. Ben Borman still in there at the moment in 12th place. Cameron Barker in the mix here currently at the same time. There was a lot of action going on. They're coming down now through Tiergarten out the other side, meeting into the stadium section. And there you go. There's one of the first penalties there. That's Cameron Barker going into the pit lane. He's going to go and deal with his penalty early.
Yeah, and I don't think that's a bad decision from Barker at all. Just get it out of the way, go ahead and serve it while you're there, and that is how long a lap is here. This has been Borman losing the lead of class. You see the wheel dips off a little bit of a wiggle there from that Lotus, and then on and around we go through from Dan Herlock, and that is just where we stand here with Borman now down in 11th place as we go through. And man, yes, the laps are very long. We're going to be really close on some of these cars making it through this second lap on fuel. It's hitting me now as we've completed one lap how long these laps truly are.
Yeah, all Div 2. Basically, Div 1, Div 2, Molin, Herlock, Businik, Borman, Jump, Pope, Locke, Bacca-Celadon, Dan Court, Gray, Monet, all of the 1-2 drivers, currently 15 to 20 minutes a lap of fuel. You've got to save a little bit on the first lap to get through the second lap, because when you're going currently at the moment, they're doing 8.5 minutes, I think they are, on Div 1, Div 2 with Molin. What did he do? Well, he did a 9:20 last time out, so that's not even enough to get him through just about the second lap. So they're going to be in every second lap, which is going to be absolutely insane. I am waiting for everybody penalty here, right? You can see that on the left-hand side, guys, there. Dahlgren, Sellers, Suvic, Kirsten have all got penalties that should technically leave Ross Smith in the lead once the penalties are done. Reese Gardner has had a bit as a DNF, unfortunately for him. And, well, we'll keep to see and have a look back and see what he got himself into. But I can tell you what, he hit the grass, he hit the wire fence, and then randomly hit the only sign on the racetrack that I've seen, and he goes and whacks the pole. So, for Reese Gardner, but I'm sure we'll catch up with that one very, very shortly. Ben Borman, unfortunately, after his great little start there in that Lotus, seems to be going a little bit backwards, sitting fourth in Div 1, Div 2 at the moment there, Brad. Borman got off to a flyer. I'm not entirely sure why we've ended up going back to 11th.
I think Borman is having to conserve, if I had to make a very educated guess, based on the fact that that Lotus can only carry about 35 liters of fuel in total. So I am guessing that the Lotus is conserving a little bit and having a very, very bad time in the position it's in. And it's unfortunate because I do think Ben Borman, as you said, started off very quick, was in a very, very good position, but now finds himself on the back foot in Div 1-2. Div 3 is opening up in the front of the field, and, you know, we still have plenty of penalties to serve, but it's opening up.
Yeah, Ben Borman can't do that. He can't keep running on that grass. Here is the replay. I've got a funny feeling this could be Reese Gardner's. There's the only sign on that bit of the circuit, and boom! Gardner hits it, comes crashing across the circuit, and that would well explain the DNF. Now, one of the other things is Jerry Chen. Jerry Chen is DNF'd here. Oh, dearie me, Jerry. What happens here? I think it's a problem on the dot and the hoe by the looks of it for Jerry Chen. Oh, there was contact on the straight. Contact on the straight as they come over the brow of the hill. Watch this. No, this is where he's already lost the wheel. He goes off the side of the circuit. You've got to go back a little bit on that one. I think it's like about 10 minutes 30 in on that one. Jerry's already lost the wheel at this point, but he has an almighty crash there, does Jerry Chen, and unfortunately goes straight in to the back of someone. Poor old Jerry on that one. It's the 128 machine who ends up going on his roof. So there we go. That was Daniel Scott that there was contact with there. So we would have a look back and see if we can catch that one going forward. Borman's still sitting in that 11th place, but I can tell you one thing there, Brad. Jerry Chen's incident was absolutely spectacular.
Yeah, Jerry Chen. It's always unfortunate to see a driver crash, but then you see the big crashes like that, and spectacular is the best way to describe it. Ben Borman here still trying to chase down Dan Herlock and making absolutely no progress, no end road, is just tucked up right on the back of him here as we go through. And well, I don't know for Ben Borman. It's not been a good time for him here, as we've got, I believe this is...
Come on, watch this. Watch Scott in front. Scott's in the blue car at the brow of the hill. Boom! I don't even know what happened. If we can get an on board with Jerry on that one to see what happened with Scott, I'm just wondering if it's a massive amount of overspeed, if whatever the situation is, but that off board is really quite deceiving. You can't quite see how Scott got so slow going up the brow of the hill. Now the interesting thing for Dan Scott as well on that one, Brad, he had a camera, he got hit, spun and spun and spun and spun and did some lovely pirouettes, but he's still running. So watch this. Hopefully this is the onboard with Jerry so we can see how he ends up getting up to the back end of Scott. Scott is driving on the right hand side. They come over the crest right about now. Oh, Scott moves in front. Oh, bro, look at that. That is not good.
I don't think Dan Scott is going to be anyone's friend, especially not a steward's friend after that one. Just you're slow through and move in front. That's not going to go over well at all for Dan Scott.
He hit a bump. He didn't steer into him. He hit a bump. He got loose going up the crest of the hill. He hit the crest, the up circuit of the hill, the upslope, and got loose. And then next thing you know, he's across the side of the track, and bang, in comes Jerry Chen. So Chen's DNF, Reese Gardner's there still out. Scott's gone and still carried on. George Angelidis has unfortunately been off again. The man who expressed his distaste at this circuit did not get that Ferrari stopped and unfortunately ended up in a wall. Dan Herlock sitting in the race circuit at the moment, 10th overall here, chasing down Elko Businic, and JT Tammy further up has got Robert Molin tucked in there, literally up his exhaust. You just see him going up the hill in front of us as you go down to 16th and 17th. That's Luca Tavanari and Neil Wood. Tavanari's just gone through on Wood. Michael Lock in behind, Cameron Barker in behind that, George Angelidis in behind that. Let's see if he can, complete maybe one lap for George. It's been a bit of a toughie, but let's see what happens here as well.
Yeah, we watch with Neil Wood here and Tavernavi that are continuing along. We jump up front here. JT Tammy now feeling some pressure there from Moling. And yes, these are different class cars, but Robin Moling was very, very comfy here compared to JT Tammy. JT Tammy seems to be a little bit slower there in that Div 3 car, and Robin Moling in that Alfa Romeo seems very comfortable. And yes, that is Busink back behind. That is Dan Herlock back behind. So this is a nice little clash of cars together. And as we go through, in theory, that Corvette Stingray should be able to pull a bit of a gap on the Div 1-2 cars. You see that going on now. But through the technical sections, through the twisty sections, the Div 1-2s do have some good pace. And if you are a Div 3, you're not super comfortable, you're not going to have a good time. And up ahead of them, it is Ross Smith, it is Wouter de Bruin that are battling it out. Now we jump back. This is David Junt under some pressure, putting pressure on Ben Borman. And they are going to come over the hill here. We saw fireworks a lap ago. They come over. They both make it over. Ben Borman blocking with everything he's got in him here through this long, long back stretch, deep into the braking zone. We're going to go and be careful getting on those brakes. Again, no special slam the brakes and the car stops for you. You got to really, really drive this car and be sweet and nice with it. There we go. Little slide from the Lotus. Come around, and this will be the start of lap 3.
Give you an update on what happened further up. Timon Suvic got in front of Bradley Sellers. Ross Smith lost a place to Wouter de Bruin. Ben Borman's in the pit lane now for Ben, so he is in there as well. We did say Div 1, Div 2 fuel at the end of every second lap, so this is going to be a tough one for him there as well. Timon Suvic sitting in second. Dahlgren's still got to go into a pit lane yet. He's out in front by 5.1, but he's going to lose 60 at the end of this lap on a penalty. So that whole top 4 is going to flip on its ear. The winner out of all that was going to be Ross Smith, who lost a place to Wouter de Bruin, but Wouter de Bruin, I don't think he's on the penalty list as well. So it still ain't going to matter. Ross Smith's still going to be in the lead by the end of lap 2. So there you go. That one is an unlucky touch. So Mr. Reese, how are the penalties monitored and calculated? That's by the admins in the Discord. That's got nothing to do with us. We just get a list of who's got what. Jaden Morris, I love vintage racing. Me too. And they're at Nords, Jaden. What more could we ask for? This is Bradley Sellers and Timon Suvic. This is how Suvic got through on Sellers. As you see, sliding it. Sellers slides it too much on the grass and in the wire fence. Suvic goes through. But I think, Brad, this opening, what have we been at, 20 minutes, has been a bit manic.
Yeah, 2 laps, 20 minutes, and it's had plenty of action top to bottom as we watch Timon Suvic here slide that Ferrari around. And now we jump back here with Joe Lalonde, who is trying to drive that Porsche and drive the wheels off of it, and is doing a fairly good job, I have to say. I think this, for me, highlights the nature of this historic series, though. And it's a different type of challenge, a different type of setup. It's a different type of driving style you have to get used to and be comfortable with. And tracks like Nords really highlight the drivers that are comfortable in their cars, I think. For Magnus Dahlgren right now, running an 8:47.6 last lap, Timon Suvic an 8:48.9. That's not that much of a pace difference when you consider the length of this track. But at the same time, he still pulled out 6.5 seconds in just 2 laps.
Yeah, but it's not going to matter. It's good. I praise him for going on his bike and running away like a scolded cat, right, for Magnus Dahlgren. But at the end of this lap, it's not going to matter because he's got a 60-second stop and hold. This is why Dahlgren, Suvic, Sellers, Kirstens, De Bruin, all in the pits. All in the pits. That should free up Ross Smith to go and take the lead. That's technically where it is, right? Ross at the moment, 37 seconds back from the leader. He should go through by 23 seconds on the other side. And that's without pit lane speed time.
I just don't know if Ross can hold it, though. Looking at the lap difference, Ross's fastest lap was his last lap with a 9:03. And Magnus Dahlgren's last lap was his fastest lap at an 8:47. That's a significant time difference. So I think even with the 60-second stop hold and Ross going through, even if he pulls a 30-second advantage, I don't think it's going to make a difference in the grand scheme of things unless Ross is just holding back pace that we're not aware of, which is totally possible. But looking at the times and the raw pace, I do think there is still a chance for Magnus Dahlgren to bring this one back and go through. But only time can tell.
Yeah, I think that although you're sitting back saying Ross hasn't got the pace, and at the moment he's showing that he hasn't. But, right, let me put it to you this way. I've done races at Nords, I've commentated on races where the leader has got a 50, 60 second gap and he goes and crashes on the final lap of the final corner coming through Tiergarten. It doesn't matter. It really does not matter how much pace that Dahlgren's got. It's about how he's going to go through people here as well. This is Dan Scott coming down onto the looping left-hander, or the right-hander, sorry, before they go back the other way. On the left-hander, then he's going to go right, so it's a looping left-right-hander on that one. And Dan Scott, I'm surprised he's still going with that flip over, Brad. He didn't even go into the pits. But what I'm trying to get at here is it doesn't matter that Dahlgren's got pace for days. He's got to get through the field. He's got to get complete Nords, and he's got to try and get out of Ross Smith. And all of them three things, God knows what it could lead to.
I don't disagree at all. Nords is a very challenging track, and I will say, if you are someone who does any sort of sim racing and you've never ran a single lap at Nords, whether it be the historics, the moderns, it doesn't matter what sim you run, you need to sit down and try to put in a good lap at Nords to understand how challenging this track is. This is a lot like the hill climbs we looked at. This is a lot like Reims. This is a lot like some of our big tracks that we've ran here this year. Targa also comes to mind, where you've got to really be on your P's and Q's. You've got to know the track. A lot of these drivers, if they're not super comfortable with Nords, they may have a track map beside them that they're looking at, that they're trying to keep up with. What's the track doing? Where am I at? What's going on? And it's a different mindset of racing entirely. It's not a wonder that some drivers are very opposed to it when you consider that what a lot of modern drivers are used to is that classic left, right, left, go style. This is a different style of racing. And some drivers are cut out for it for 100 minutes. Some drivers aren't. You know, I agree with you there, James. We could see Magnus Dahlgren get up front and bin it on the last lap going into the braking zone out of the final straightaway. Completely possible.
Yeah.
We just got to see what happens.
Yeah, going into this, though, this is going to be an interesting one at the moment, because going into this round, obviously George and Jerry were not very far apart in the championship, right? They were, what are they at the moment, 24 points difference. Jerry Chen is not going to score a single bean here, right? He's not even going to get one single point. He's out, he's DNF'd, he's gone. It doesn't matter for Jerry Chen. That's also going to massively affect the team standings between Scudiera Cavalli, who's only got George in the race, and Jerry Chen, who's only got Jerry in the race, and John Myers not here. So George at the moment needs to, although he's got disgust and he hates the circuit, and it's a very strong word that I cannot pronounce, it's only 4 letters, it begins in S and ends in T, he's got to complete this, because for points, that is massive. That's him in the championship for the Div 3Ams. That's him in the team championship for the Div 3Ams as well. That is big for George, this, and regardless of whether or not he likes it.
Yeah, we've got Bradley Sellers here trying to get a pass for P2 against Simon Subic. He's got the pass done. He's through. A lot of straight line speed there from that Shelby. But on your point there, James, you know, even if you don't like the track, you cannot like a track and be quick at it and run the track. It kind of doesn't, saying I don't like this track doesn't necessarily mean that a driver's not going to be good at it. They cannot like it for a number of reasons. You know, you and me have had conversations about certain British tracks that we don't like. I will not name the track for fear of YouTube chat attacking me. But with that being said, George really has to step it up. He's got to step it up.
They're in the pits. Dahlgren, Sellers, Suvic, Kirstens is coming in. The Bruins got to come in. It doesn't matter. These have got to get their 60-second stop and holds done. And my prediction at the moment, 60-second stop and hold, they're going to come out below 13th place to Cameron Barker. So, you know, for Sellers and Suvic, that last battle was irrelevant. All you've done is slow each other down. Ross Smith now is just going to come through, say thank you very much, adios gentlemen, I'm in the lead, you've still serving your penalties, crack on, and you've still got 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 15, 20 seconds. Some of Wouter de Bruin still got to go. So JT's in contact with him, and we know the Corvette is fast, but at the moment for these two, run. That's all I can literally physically say to you, is run away. Because Dahlgren come out in the end behind Herlock, who is in 6th place. Robert Molin's in 7th. Sellers is out in 8th. Then you've got Suvic there. He's still in the pits. Kirsten's going to come out behind Tavanari. Pope's got in the pits. Lalonde has gone jump De Bruin. So at the moment, the highest one out the penalty was Magnus Dahlgren. He's in 6th place, and he's 23 seconds back from the leader here, Brad. And he's got 5 cars to get there.
Yeah, and again, with the pace of Dahlgren, I don't think it's impossible. I think the biggest issue for Magnus Dahlgren is going to be getting passes done. It's going to be cleanly getting around cars and going through. I think that's going to be the biggest issue he finds. It's doable. It's not impossible, especially if you consider that he's got to get past Dan Herlock here, who is putting in a lot of pace and looking very, very, very good.
And he's fighting out as well with David Junt in front of him. So, you know, there's a lot to... Oh, Herlock, stay off that little... Oh, dude. He is throwing this around, literally at the moment, Dan Herlock. And he's nicely through that section. Great job from the two of them there as well. And I think that at the end of this bit of a run here, Dan Herlock could have a nice little go as they're coming into the right-hander of Flugplatz. Then they're going to go left into Cottonboard before they go down into Arenberg, the right-hander at the base of the hill. Now they're going to drop down the hill. They're topping north of 135, 140, near enough mile an hour downhill. Up the other side they go. They've got to come around the corner. You've got to look. On the modern day, there's a change of tarmac colour. On the historic, it's all the same. Look for the sign on the left-hand side. Start at your braking point just off corner exit. Now get it into Arenberg and get that run up into Ardenau Forest. Because I can tell you one thing, Brad. This section at the moment is go. It is an overtake. It isn't try and get through. It is run, because you cannot get through here without causing yourself mass dramas on the run up into Adenau. So it's just pointless. Follow each other. Try and open up the gaps to the guys in front.
Tell you what, James, you surprised me with your Nürburgring knowledge and your knowledge of this beautiful track. The weekly race really shows. Really shows through. We've got a Dahlgren down to 18 seconds, the gap there to Ross Smith. We're going to continue to watch that come down. We've got an hour and 9 minutes left to go. Yes, an hour and 9 minutes left to go. And the question, how many laps have they completed? Three. Four.
4, is it? 4.
We have 4 laps completed by our leader, Ross Smith.
Yeah, these guys now coming into Colonnade before they go off here. Through the right-hander they go. They've got a lot of track to cover, and some of it's not easy. Through the right-hander here. It's 1:08 now coming down. They're going to plunge down the hill. There's going to be a right, and then they're going to go on a U-turn left on this one. The day's pushing. Herlock is pushing as much as possible. Dahlgren's gap's coming down at a rate of knots here now on the run up through Exmuller before they start coming into Bergwerk. It's going to be a long run for these guys. Through the left-hander up the hill, they're going to go through the right-hander now, pushing that run down into Bergwerk, the right-hander, before they go all the way run to the right and left-hander of Muckkurva, and then up into the Klein Carousel. This next section here as well, this is Herlock's opportunity. He's got a bit of a run coming out of Bergwerk now, Brad. He's got to get this right and then start getting to get a run down as well. And he's got to make sure that he can get that run going up through the left-hander of Muckkurva into Carousel, because otherwise he's going to allow Scott Legend to get away here, and he can't afford to do that.
Yeah, and Dan Herlock is now also got the pressure of Magnus Dahlgren behind. And not too far off here as we jump in with Magnus Dahlgren. Third in class right now, 17 seconds the gap. And there is Dan Herlock and David Junt just ahead. This is going to be one of the big challenges for Magnus Dahlgren, trying to get that lead in Div 3 and trying to make up the 60 seconds of time he lost from his penalty. This is challenge number 1, this feisty driver named Dan Herlock. We know Dan Herlock has pace. We know Dan Herlock looks good. We'll see how this goes through in 12 seconds now, the gap between Dahlgren and Tammy. They're not slowing down anytime soon, James. And it's one thing to catch, another pass.
He can't coming up here. He cannot coming up here. There's only one through. There's only one line through Klein's, and that's on that inside there. They cannot get Klein's carousel wrong. You pop out of it, you're going to slow yourself down. Use the inside of Klein's carousel as much as you can. And then, now you've got the run up into Hubenhock. It's going to be interesting to see what Dahlgren's going to do. That is not a good idea. The thing is through here as well. This is so tough. This is another tough one to get on the overtake. Hugenhock down into Brunchen. There is not a lot of room. And these cars are not slowing down. It can be currently at the moment a full flat run in these cars. There might be lifting and turning the corner, but I can tell you one thing, there ain't a lot else to it. And this is the thing for these guys. This section is not going to happen. It's going to be coming out of Brunchen. He's going to be on his way down through S-curve up into the Klein's carousel, the left-hander, and then going up through Galgenkopf before they go on to the Dottinger Holbrad. There's nowhere else that he's going to be able to get this done. It is too tight. Unless Dan Herlock allows him to go through, it's going to be the Dottinger Ho every single time.
Yeah, but I don't think Dan Herlock is going to let Magnus Dahlgren go through, because the thing is, well, actually I say that, and now that I've said it, I think it might be beneficial for Dan Herlock to let him through. And I say that because he could then just follow him around, and, you know, if he lets him through coming through carousel, the second carousel, and going down into Dottinger, it could be possible for a little bit of a slipstream, a little something. Aero doesn't do a lot in these cars, but hey, you never know. It could be worth a shot. Then again, Dan Herlock could say, you know what, I don't want to let you through, Magnus. I want to try to push and continue on with David Junt and try to catch up to him. Well, big thing right now, just got to get behind it.
The problem is there's too much pace difference between the Div 3s. Right, they're coming up into Klein's now. Again, they've got to pop it in that inside. There's the change of tarmac colour. That's what helps you rotate the car. Now we're going to be coming up through on the right-hander now up into Galgenkopf, right? The right, long looping right-hander. On the modern day circuit, you are going uphill. This circuit, not so much elevation, but on the modern day, you're up and you're down the other side. Now this is it. This is where Dahlgren's going to go. There's nothing Herlock can do now. Look at the pace difference. 150, 160 for Dahlgren, 135, 140 for Herlock. It's going to be the same with David Junt. Junt has got nothing here. He cannot do anything, Brad. You know what I mean? It's like in my little dashhound chasing a greyhound. Ain't going to matter what my dashhound does. He ain't going to catch it. You know, look, Dahlgren's through again. Adios, senorita. See you later. He's now moving his way through, and he's got Elko Pusinik in front of him. Let's see what Elko could do. Again, in a Div 3, or Div 1, Div 2. Massive speed difference. For Dahlgren, Smith's in the pits. Ain't going to make a blind bit of difference. Everything that we've just talked about, Brad, we might as well just ditch out of the window, because Ross Smith's in the pits, and JT Tammy carries on.
Yeah, and JT Tammy through, Dahlgren through, but here's the thing, is they've got to come to the pits too eventually. So we're starting to see a little bit of a split in that pit strategy go around. It's interesting to see, and look at the lack of pace from JT Tammy. I wanted to say look at the pace, but that just feels like a pure lack of pace. I think that is a prime example of those Div 3 cars, very fast in a straight line. They do not like doing any sort of left-hand or right-hand turn. Look at the Div 1-2 leaderboard. Look at the amount of cars in the pits right now. Look at that.
Yeah, it's insane. And literally insane. You've got 5 all the way down to 13th in the pit lane. People Gray is DNF'd as well, and we've lost Chen and we've lost Gardner. So Adam Gray there on a DNF. We'll see if what did he do? Oh, he blew an engine by the looks of it. Did Adam Gray? He blew an engine up, and looking at it now for Adam Gray, and he's put himself in the pit lane. Dalton 6 seconds to JT Tammy. Elko Businic leading in class there. With this George Angelidis there with a new fastest lap. But Tammy leading his class by 5.8. Businic losing his class by 5. Angelidis has got to finish, guys, in YouTube chat. It is imperative for his own championship and imperative for the team championship. George Angelidis, despite the hate, has got to do 61 minutes at this circuit. They need the points for him and his team. Celadon's in the pits, Locke's in the pits. Dancourt should come through and take... Oh, no, he's not. He's going to be up through... Where is he? He's coming up through Tiergarten at the moment. The right, left. He might get second in the Div 1-2 AMS. So for Dancourt, is he going to jump Celadon? Yes. Oh, no, maybe not, actually, because Celadon is on his way out of the pits. Dancourt does go through, so he does get him there in the end. Dancourt takes over that position as well. But there's so much going on, and it's only going on, Brad, because of two things. One, the penalties have played a massive part in this flipping everything upside down. Two, now the pit stop cycles are all over the place, because we're going to have almost, as we said, at the end of 2 stops, right, or end of 2 laps, we're almost going to have one half of the field's going to go in 1 lap, the other half of the field's going to go in the other lap. So who's going to then be on sequence when it comes after the last 60 minutes?
That is a good question. And honestly, nobody's going to know the answer except for the drivers and us when the checkered flag drops. This is Subic. We've seen him slide that car a bit, and look at this. Into the fence, into the crowd, and catches it through. Tell you what, if you're a bystander there, you probably wouldn't have just stood there and watched. You would have ran out of the way, and the back end of that car, it doesn't look like that's his first rodeo doing that at all.
No, but the wire fence there, as you can see, did stop him. Now, obviously, in real life, guys, that pole would have come flying out, and he would have just carried on that one. Now, can we pick up on the fact that Dahlgren has closed to less than 3.6 seconds to JT Tammy, please, Mr. Producer, sir, in my ear. And there you go. And now Dahlgren is got JT Tammy right up in front of him. There he is. We're going on to a replay of somebody who's done something. And that's Eric Monet, who's decided that he's going to see how that car... Oh, Scott! Not again! Not again, Stan Scott! He's probably sat there, Brad, going, please, not again. I really can't help that handle this today.
Yeah, Dan Scott has managed to find himself in several worst case scenarios a couple of times through here. We're checking on Magnus Dahlgren in second place here in the Div 3. And yes, you see this correct right now. Technically, Div 1-2 is leading our race. That is kind of rare.
Do you know what? I'm fearful now. Because this game has done something funky and put Dan Scott in the lead. Now the problem is the last time we had this on this historic calendar was, oh my God, where was we? Let's see if the producer can remind me. Right, was it Targa Florio? Where we had that problem when they ended up only supposed to do 3 laps or something, and we ended up only doing 2 because somebody had done something and the game had done something funky. Well, it's done it again here because Dan Scott is at the front of this field. Everybody else is 362 seconds behind him in Div 1, Div 2 AMS. And this is causing, I think this may have just caused a little bit of an issue here, Brad. We'll have to keep an eye on this one as Div 1 and 2 are leading the field here. So, yeah, a little bit of a problem on that one.
Yeah, this is... I hate to say it, but it's Dan Scott again, James. Last time we had this issue, it was Dan Scott and now we find it again.
No, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't Dan Scott. No.
It was.
I'm sorry, Dan Scott. It was not Dan Scott.
No,
but...
it was Magnus. I believe it was Magnus Dahlgren at Targa Floria, and it was. We're being told it was the head of the stewards, but we're not given we'll figure out the name of the head of the stewards on that one. Was it JT Tammy by any chance? It wasn't JT Tammy. Let me just through Magnus Dahlgren. It wasn't him. It was Bob Smith from California. He's got size 7 feet. Who did that one there as well? But it wasn't him. It was Matthew Overton who had, I believe, had the problem at Targa Floria on that one. That caused the problem there as well. John Huyan, yes, Kim. See,
man,
YouTube chat got it, not us. Look, but anyway, this has caused a problem. You can see there now, Dan Scott is in the front of the field. So we're going to keep an eye on whether or not this is going to rectify itself or whatever the situation is going to be here. But somebody somewhere is ahead of somebody else.
Yeah, I think the fortunate situation with this is that we're on a timed race and not a lap race. So even though we have all this extra time, our producer thinks he knows why here, and I think we might be seeing it on screen.
No. A game cannot get glitched out by him not being able to hit his pit box. Surely. So what we think may have happened, looking at that picture, we've got a funny feeling he's crossed the line and then backed again. That's
really
gathering there is an error on that circuit because he's going backwards and forwards like nobody's business here. He can't get it on there as well. Kim D, #never forget. Well, clearly you have not got 3 elephants in this booth who remember everything, Kim, because all 3 of us forgotten who the bleating name was. So, we do try, Kim. Give us a minute. Dahlgren has cleared JT Tammy. By the way, if we can see if we can find that overtake, that would be absolutely amazing for JT Tammy and Magnus Dahlgren. We'll keep an eye on and see how these get on. JT Tammy's behind. Yeah, he is behind Magnus Dahlgren, and this is how this has happened. No, it's not. Who is this? George Angelidis again?
No, surely not George.
I think we've compounded George's misery for long enough this evening. Dahlgren's in the pits. JT Tammy is going to retake the lead, and he should be in the pits next time around. There's 2 laps. This is what we mean. You're going to have half the grid set of laps, half the grid the following set of laps, and they're all going to be swapping around. There you go. Suvic's in again. Does 2 laps. Come into the pits. Come on, Nick Kirstens. Where you at, son? Let's get you in the pit lane as well. Oh no, he goes through, so he's clearly carried enough fuel on that one. Timon Suvic in the pit lane. Ross Smith should clear Magnus Dahlgren and Timon Suvic. This timing tower is all over the place at the moment. I'm literally trying to. It might as well be written in Braille at this moment in time to try and understand who is where. All we know is Dan Scott is not leading the race, even though apparently he is. Here's the overtake of JT Tammy and Dahlgren. I think that's coming down into Klein's. There should be a right-hander there. There it is. Into Klein's carousel, and Dahlgren got him before that one there as well. So fair play to them. Ross finds himself in 4th. Wouter de Bruin is DNF'd for Wouter de Bruin, and we'll try and find out what happened to him. Big, nice little yellow car in that Shelby Daytona, and then he goes and hits a random pole. And I'm not joking. Watch this one. It just goes around the corner too sharp and hits the pole.
Yeah, and man, that's a hard hit. That is unfortunate to see too. See him go through. Yeah, Hate to see that. Somebody hit his wheel too going through. I'm not exactly sure who that is, but absolutely all over the place right now in terms of timing. As you said, James, it's absolutely anyone's guess who is where right now. We've got the replay coming through, and look at the wheel go flying there off to the side and jump through, hit one car, and just barely misses the next as they continue around.
That is Luca Tavanari. Michael Locke hits it first, and then Tavanari hits it after. So there you go for them. Unfortunately, Ruta de Bruin DNF'd. Mr. Borman is there. He's having a nice little battle with Ben Borman in 7th only. So Eric Monet has also been off the circuit, mind you. So keep an eye out and see on this one. Who have we got on the screen is Mr. JT in that Corvette, slides it up into the fence. Ouch, drags the nose across as well. That poor Corvette there. Oh, beautiful. Do you know, Bradley, the interesting thing about that Corvette as well, do you know how much the Corvette 69 Stingray still goes for?
I should know this, and surprisingly I don't, James. How much?
They are currently, if you wanted just a normal black Corvette Stingray 69, it is currently going for $29,000. If you want anything other than yellow, black, and in a soft top, it's going up to the range of $90,000 plus currently at this moment in time, the 69 Corvette Stingray on that one. Obviously, we've got the 64 version that JT Tammy's in, but that's how much the 69 soft top is currently going for. So, depending on what color you want.
So how many of those do you own, James? That sounds like something you would have.
It is something
like
I would.
your style.
It is something I would have because the '69 Corvette Stingray in yellow is my ideal car. If somebody said to me, "Here's money, go and spend it and get a car," that's what I would get. I'd get a '69 Corvette Stingray. I'm not bothered about supercars and all the rest of the rubbish because, let's face it, they're just rubbish. But that's what I would go and buy. Currently, I don't own any, but the retirement plan says that I should own one by the time I retire.
That's I would not be surprised, honestly, if you did own one. That would not surprise me a bit. Dan Scott, it looks like, is crossing the line here, leading the way through. 333 second lead, it says, starting lap number 7. I can't tell exactly what's gotten him into that position. We're trying to compare it to where other cars are to tell where he's at with the line, where things look like. It's interesting to see just how things are. I don't know. It's an unfortunate thing to see. I hate when situations like this happen, but especially when you have a track like the Nordschleife where things are just so spread out as it is and things go through, you can almost look at that and believe that that is the current gap. If you didn't know any better and if we hadn't have said anything, somebody would have looked at that and probably said, wow, that's a big gap, and went through. Everyone is really in that middle part of the race, James. Everyone's settled in. They're running their own race right now, and they're settling into that point where it's just focus on yourself, focus on your runs, and continue through to the end, and that is what you have to do. And I think at this point, you've gotten towards half distance here, and it's just about being smooth, consistent, and don't make any silly mistakes here near the end.
I do agree. I am on a bit of a hunting mission at the moment as well. I've messaged a couple of people who might be able to give us some help with that situation on where the line is. So I am working on that in the background as we speak. So there you go. Everything's kind of settled down at the moment, isn't it? You know, Bradley Sellers is a couple of seconds Bradley Sellers is a couple of seconds back. Dan Court's had a moment and unfortunately has DNF'd that car. That's on the rundown into Arenberg. I believe he may have just disconnected for Dancourt. So we are down to 23 drivers, and I don't believe that's going to be all of them. Wood de Bruin has said the finishing line is about at pit entry. So there you go.
So if it's it, I'm not going to try to figure that one out, actually. You know what? I'll leave that to somebody who makes a lot more money than me, we'll say, and invest a lot more time than me into this to figure out the math on that one, because I'm not sure. That's not adding up for me.
What's not adding up?
So he was at the end of the pits though when he backed up, but then it put I don't know.
Yeah. Hold on, I'm in combo. I am in combo trying to find out how this is going to be resurrecting. David Junt and Robert Molin are only half a second apart. That's the closest battle on the racetrack at the moment. So we can have a look. There you go. There's Robert Molin and David Junt here having a nice little battle. So that's in David Junt in Div 1-2, Robert Molin in Div 1-2 as well. And these guys are battling it out for third and fourth on the track here, going around Tiergarten and down the finishing line. Well, actually, it's Klein's Carousel by the looks of it.
Yeah, and as they go through here, they're continuing around. I'm really, really curious to see with Robin Moling just holding on to the position he's in and moving forward. I think Robin Moling can find a very, very good result here today. If he can continue along down in the bottom right there, that is indeed going to be Magnus Dahlgren, who is continuing around, continuing to fly past people, putting in pace, and is past Busink there, going through. And who is the man in front of Magnus Dahlgren by 1.1 seconds? It is going to be Mr. Ross Smith. Ross Smith, look in your rearview mirror and then look back ahead, because you're about to be under some pressure here as we go down this long straight. We come through the left-hander underneath the bridge, go around up towards the end of this long, long lap. 45 minutes left to go officially now. And Ross Smith, I don't know how hard you can defend this, but defend like your life depends on it, friend.
Yeah, he's got Dahlgren tucked in. He's not going to be able to do a lot. I don't think Dahlgren is naturally quick on that one before he's going to get through, coming down into the left-hander and then the looping right-hander. And Dahlgren's going to have that inside line. Is Smith going to be able to defend? He is for a brief moment. Dahlgren's going to keep it on the race circuit. Round the right-hander they've also got behind, you can see in the yellow car, Bradley Sellers is tucked in behind him. Ross Smith, Magnus Dahlgren round. Now they're going to go up the other side and then they're going to plunge into Nords. It's going to be interesting here as well. Update on the situation with Dan Scott. It's a time race, so expect it still to finish at the time. He will have an extra lap compared to what everybody else has done. The admins can compensate for that after the race, but it will mess up who is first across the line on the final lap. So although at the moment we've got Scott, the leader, if Dahlgren goes over the start finishing line, and he technically will win the race, or Smith, depending who's in front, but then the race isn't going to end until Scott crosses the line. So we're going to have to play the results a little bit by ear on this one, I think, because we can't call the end of the race. Technically, we could with one of these guys out in front and over the line, but we've got to wait for Dan Scott to come over the line to effectively end the race.
Yeah, and that is going to be a little bit of a wait there with it, but I don't think it'll be too bad. We'll see how things shape up. It is going to be a by ear thing, and sometimes that happens, but again, that's the nature of the historic series. Sometimes with the historics, you know, when you think about real life racing,
they're going to make contact on the straight! On the straight! Boys! Dahlgren's round! Smith's in the wall. Sellers is out in front. Oh my God, Busenik! Busenik has gone a third. Russ Smith, Magnus Dahlgren. What the Jiminy Cricket are you two up to on a straight? And you both go and crash. What the living daylights on the run down to Arenberg. Dahlgren's up the inside, no space left. There was no space left from Smith to allow Dahlgren up. He almost looked at saving it in the wall. He then comes up onto the track. Busenik goes bang! Straight in there as well. And then 3 other cars come plummeting through. Let's have a replay of that one. Because I can tell you one thing. Busenik's DNF'd, Ross Smith has DNF'd. And it's all gone a little bit Pete Tong for these guys as well. That may actually give me an opportunity here, Brad, to pull Mr. Smith in to have a chat about the state of, well, what's what just happened. Right, Dahlgren gets up the inside, right? So he's going to come around the corner. He's there. Smith carries on, coming over. 2 bits of contact. And then Dahlgren, unfortunately, goes round into the fence. And now watch from Smith's angle. Can he see him? Not really. There you go. And then watch from poor old Elko Busenik's on board. He has nowhere to go apart from going plunging straight in to Smith as he comes back on the circuit. He hits an imaginary fence. Busenik comes through. And then bing, bang, bomb. Oh, is that Busenik's? Whoa! There we go.
I hate to be the one to say it, but Ross Smith did nothing wrong in that situation. Ross Smith was ahead. I think Ross Smith had the right to be where he was at. And
are you saying they weren't alongside each other?
No, I do not think that that's a case of alongside and through. I do not think Ross Smith did anything wrong in that situation. If you consider the fact that Dahlgren had to go into the grass to try to even get a wheel ahead.
Oh, the problem is, I'm going to disagree. There was overlap. There was overlap from the 2 of them. Dan Scott's in the pits now, the leader of the race somehow. Let's bring Mr. Smith in the booth first off. Ross, can you hear me? Are you okay? He's muted.
I'm physically fine, but I'm not feeling great.
Okay, give us your opinion. We're having a disagreement up here in the booth. Was there overlap from Dahlgren on your car?
When I was looking back at the replay, he did not have it. He was not side by side up to my door at that turn-in. So,
But are we saying there was overlap front to rear wheel though?
oh, there was overlap, yeah. But
Okay.
but yeah, you have to have that. You have to be up. The tire has to be at the driver's head to actually have that position.
Yeah,
And that was the case.
Right, okay, that's fair enough. Let's move on a little bit because we've got this other issue. Ross, I could be here all day. Let's be real about it, talking about that as well, because overlap is different to every blinking league I've ever commentated on. So, you know, at the end of the day, if it's front wheel to driver, then that's what it is, and it weren't there. We've got this other problem of somehow Dan Scott has ended up in the lead of the race. How is this going to be resolved currently at this moment in time? The fact that we've got to wait for him to go over the line to deem the winner, but yet he's not actually going to be the winner.
That's a good question. I really haven't paid attention. I only just heard from one of the other chats that he was up in front. I don't even know how far out in front he is right now, but
he's a lap, I believe. He's 217 seconds ahead of Robert Molin, and Div 1, Div 2 are leading the race overall.
I meant just ahead of who should be the leader right now.
So Magnus Dahlgren, well, it's Bradley Sellers, isn't it? Where is Sellers going at the moment? Let me see if I can go on board to see where he is on the race circuit. He is towards the end of the race through, coming up over by S-Curva. Dan Scott, however, is right. He's not in the pits. He's out of the pits, isn't he? Currently at the moment, I believe, for Dan Scott. And he's out of the pits and he's on his way down the first part. So about half the circuit. Dan Scott's on his way down into Arenberg, and Bradley Sellers is on his way up to Kleins Carousel, the last one on the race, on the circuit.
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, everyone's going to end at the same time in terms of the way that that the time will run out. So you basically will finish however that is, and then behind the leader. Now, as far as what that does to potential laps on the server, I'm not 100% sure. I can try and figure out how that ended up happening, where he was awarded an extra lap, and see if I can possibly intervene.
Well, I'm going to give you some information that I've just read in the chat. Adam Gray has put, I noticed during practice that if you touch the grass by the signpost at the end of the pit lane, you gain a lap. That could explain why he's a lap ahead, he's put.
Yeah, and we did see that for practice, but we didn't really see that happening during the race, at least again on Tuesday. And I certainly saw some people over there, but he must have just hit it just right. You know, he hit the polygon, got the glitch, and now he's up in front. But we'll see what we can do to potentially correct that.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure unless we get him to sit in the pits for 211 seconds or whatever he is on that one. That's going to be an interesting one. Well, Ross, we said in the interview previous to the race starting, survived the circuit. Unfortunately, you were surviving the circuit. You just couldn't survive the other drivers in and around you.
Yeah, it's very disappointing because it seems like every time we come into a race and we're actually in a good position to do well, it's just taken away. And that's been pretty much every single round this year, which makes it very frustrating. And, I feel bad for Valter because I know that he's kind of been in the same boat. You know, he's got a very quick car, and he had a penalty he had to serve here, unfortunately, coming out of Ennepegusa. But he's very fast. I mean, we should be up there right with the rest of those guys in points in terms of the team's championship. And every single round, besides like I think the first one, we've just been slapped right in the face. So it's disappointing, but it kind of reinforces certainly my decision for dropping away from racing going into next year, just because if these are going to be the types of results, I don't want to sit around and waste my time.
Okay, I don't want to push you on that situation because I could take it into places that obviously we may end up regretting this whole conversation. Just quickly though, are you confirming right now that you will not be racing in next season?
Certainly in the moderns. I'm still on the fence about the historics just because I do have to be administrator for that. But outside of that, I'm pretty much just stepping away from the rig.
Okay. All right. Okay. Fair enough. No dramas. I hope you. What is that, a sabbatical or is that just a full-on retirement, Mr. Smith?
I guess it remains to be seen. I mean, a big part of why I need to step away is just to be able to get a lot of this backlog done. And there are so many cars that need to be touched right now that there's really no other option to be able to get that, just because coming into these race weekends, even arrive and drive, it takes up a lot of time and a lot of effort. I mean, coming off of the rig, you're exhausted. You don't want to just jump into modding right away or anything like that. So yeah, you can burn up almost an entire day just with the racing alone. So being able to actually focus on getting those things done, it means that everyone else gets better cars and better mods in the racing world. And then who knows, if we see ourselves far enough ahead, then maybe I can come back in and actually invest some time into being on the track and feeling good again, and then starting to enjoy the races.
Right, okay. Well, we've just seen Magnus Dahlgren go round. I think there was contact at Kleins, I believe, for Magnus Dahlgren on that one as well. Okay, Ross, well, sorry to see it end that way, dear sir. I really did think you were in for a shout here. there was a lot of strategies as we're just going to have a look at the replay actually really quickly of what happened to Magnus Dahlgren. That is the 1-2, that was 23, that Molin, I believe, dives up the inside and makes contact with Dahlgren, pushes him round, pushes him up, pushes his back, and then bang, contact from the car behind on that one as well. You were looking strong here, Ross. Do you think that you could have taken the win? Because then penalties caused a lot of people, half the field were pitting on one lap, half the field were pitting on the other lap. Where were you in your pit cycle?
I had one more. I think I had 2 more laps to come in and top off, and then that would be good to the end. And that's basically where the Shelbys are. You can eke it out one more, but it doesn't really make any sense. You're only saving, you know, if you were fuel saving, you would get maybe, you know, like half of the fuel tank that you have to deal with at the end. So you have a shorter stop, but you give up so much time on the track, just lifting, coasting, that you might as well just fill it all up when you're in there. So yeah, I think all the Shelbys, it just made more sense to go flat out with the way that the timing worked here. Ooh, wow. that was a wild ride for that Alpha.
Yeah, look at Tavanari there. So you could get what, two laps and pitting at the end of lap 2?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's basically a 12-lap race for the Div 3s. So the Shelby can do 4 laps, basically full to empty. So it works out almost perfectly when you're flat out. So if you have that in there, you can just go in, fill it up. You know, just maximize your time out on the track. Don't try and fuel save, because you end up costing yourself probably about 12 to 20 seconds a lap, just depending on how things go. You can mess up your brake markers and everything. I'm actually curious to see how the cars are handling towards the end of this, because tire wear, especially at the rears, is going to be huge, and some of these guys are going to be really slippy and slidey before that checkered flag comes out.
Yeah, there's a lot of people quite spread out at the moment. It's separated quite ferociously here. I'm not going to count Dan Scott's lap time, because somehow he's done it in a 1 minute 16 seconds. So I'm going to guess that is an error, because that is no way in hell that Dan Scott has gone from start to end in a Div 1, Div 2, doing barely 145, 150 down the dotting a hoe and going down in a 1 minute 16 around the whole race course. So as much as I love R Factor on that one, and so there we go. We've got a funny feeling that Oliver Newman's car, well, he's on flames. He is smoking at this moment in time. Ross, I'll get to you in 2 seconds on that one. You can see Oliver Newman here. The engine let go. There you go. I do love the flames. The way they do an engine blowout here as well in RF2 is absolutely sensational. And I think that they should put that in other simulators. Adam Gray also had the same problem with his car engine going puff. Is that something, again, Ross, that they've got to be careful of, engine wear at this circuit?
Yeah, there's a lot of downshifting into corners to be able to engine brake, and if you kick those revs up too much, these engines were very sensitive back in the day. And even though the 904 is, I would say, probably of those in the field, it's one of the most robust, you still can't abuse it. And these cars have been, I mean, the Nordschleife is hard on cars, hard on brakes, hard on engines. So it's feeling the heat, and you can only push that for so long before it finally gives out. We just saw it.
Dan Scott there in the fence there. It'd be good to know currently what lap is Mr. Scott on, because that 1 minute 16 would have put him another lap ahead. He's still a lap ahead. I've just had confirmation from that one. Jerry Chen, I do love Jerry's little philosophy in the community there, and said somebody needs to go and tell him to park it in pits and let the leaders go past. So there we go. That's Jerry's solution to the problem. We've lost Oliver Newman. So we are currently down to 20 drivers out on track. Ross, that's roughly what we thought might get this done. You know, you told me to be a bit more optimistic, but it seems that I may have been right.
Yeah, unfortunately so. And if my incident was anything related to why a lot of those drivers are off, then it's disappointing for sure. I'm gonna guess that it's probably not, but I don't know. You guys have certainly had eyes on things a lot more than I have. But yeah, it's a tough track, and certainly you're going to have DQs, and this is just or sorry, DNFs, and you're just seeing a lot of, especially as the Sportscar, especially as the cars lose weight from fuel, as the tires wear out. Every lap is completely different. Your braking zone is completely different. So you're on it all the time, and even when you're very focused, it's still so difficult because you have to be right in tune with what the car is doing and what you think you're going to be in, especially for the next corner. And with the added pressure of other cars around you, other cars gaining, other cars going away, that's where things just kind of hit right to the limit and go off the wall.
That has been the problem. Timon Subic in there with David Junt and Cameron Barker on your screen. And Subic is wiggling that car worse than a fish out of water there for Timon Subic in that Ferrari 250, having a right little wiggle on. Junt has pulled into the pits. Cameron Barker's also gone into the pits. That means Nicholas Kirstens is going to go round. He's chasing down Subic. Both of these in the same class. Subic in second, Kirstens in third. So we'll keep an eye on that one. Ross, it's been a pleasure, as it always is. You know, sorry about the way your race ended. Unfortunately, that's kind of racing.
Yeah, unfortunately it is. I hope that we see better for the next time, and listeners will look at that. We'll see how the next race goes.
Are we going to see you in the next race, Ross?
Oh yeah, I'll finish out this year. I got to hit my 100 before the end, but yeah, after that, I'm not going to be around as much.
Oh, I've got a tear in my eye, Mr. Smith. You know what I mean? I'm wiping away my tear for you.
Yeah, you got some monitors to watch. You got to take care of business.
Man, I've got 4 of them to keep an eye on. But listen, dude, it's always a pleasure. You know that, right? It's always a pleasure having a chat with you. And it is going to be sad not to see you on the racetrack. In fact, I'll catch my tear and stick it in a little test tube, and then I'll send it over to you in America to show you that I did actually shed a tear for you, Ross. Because, you know, it's a very sad, sorry moment when you hear that a driver who's so predominant in the series has all of a sudden just turned around and decided enough is enough.
Yeah, it's a case of circumstances. But, you know, we've got a growing membership and everything, so there'll be plenty of others taking up the spot, and we'll have good racing all
Yeah, but who's going to come and tell me all about it and lie about the year when I still don't know?
I'm sure I'll find my way to the booth plenty of times.
Well, I hope so too. Right, ladies and gentlemen, that is Mr. Ross Smith. Yeah, we could sit here and talk forever, the two of us, to be blatantly honest. But we better bring Brad back into the booth here, who's also commentating alongside me there as well. That's the end of Ross. Brad. Ross is taking a sabbatical.
Yeah, that hurts. Ross is a very strong driver, and you know, it's unfortunate to see him go. But at the same time, Ross has, you know, a lot of things in the background he does to make everything we do here happen. So it hurts, but at the same time, I think it could produce some good results for us and some good, you know, good moments, good features, and different things that'll come forward. So we'll see what that does, but it's unfortunate to see. Here's David Junt having a run through with Mr. Barker. They go side by side through, and Barker getting the move done on David Junt there and getting that pass through. But yeah, no, it's unfortunate to see Ross go, but I do think that it'll give him time to make sure he is putting the best product forward that he can here with Storm Gang.
Yeah, I agree on that one. Cameron Barker and David Junt making that move in through Arenberg. And now they're going out the other side of the circuit at the moment. Ben Borman looks like is on a bit of a mission to catch Scar Pope up through, and now Forest version, and also Barker there around the left-hander. Then they're going to go right. Then they're going to go on a run down into Matscatsfield at the bottom here currently. So still got some great racing between these two on the race circuit, and hopefully they'll keep providing the action, because I can tell you one thing, the other one is Ben Borman and Scar Pope, and that is getting very spread out. Tuman Suvic been off the race circuit again. Oh, he has as well. He went off in a very, very fashionable manner. So with Scar Pope down in the bottom right, there we go. Now on the main screen with Ben Borman closing behind. So a battle of who's going to be able to finish, I think, is going to be the scenario. And I believe this might be Tuman Suvic's replay. It is. Look, he goes right, and then he gets it all a little bit wrong as we wait. Ben Borman is side by side with Scar Pope, by the way. And then unfortunately he goes off the other side and it hits the wall. Scar Pope and Ben Borman. Ben just alongside, just couldn't quite get it on the inside. Is he going to look up the inside of Scar Pope? He's not. And now he's got the right-hander to go. Is he going to be able to do this as well? Let's see if I can tell you whereabouts they are on the racetrack. I think they're on their way to the right-hander of Bergwerk, which will be coming up very, very shortly, I believe. There we go. And then that should be the run up the hill. So yeah, lots of action still taking place here.
Plenty of action to find through and go around. It does look like the leader situation has been sorted here as we go around and continue. Borman putting pressure in the Lotus on Scar Pope and continuing to push forward here. It looks like Borman's not done with Scar Pope and is going to continue to run forward. Lots of things have spread out here. Lots of drivers we've lost. We are currently running on 20 drivers, James. I think that was no, that was my prediction at the start of this race. I said 20. I don't remember how many you said, though.
I think I gave a range. I think it was 15 to 18. So I still have time. You know what I mean? You never know. It might happen, but we'll see. Up for Boba they go now on the run up into Mutkova, and they're alongside at the moment. Ben Borman and Scar Pope running side by side. Is he going to be able to make it round the outside here? Borman not at the moment. Scar Pope still alongside him through the left-hander. They've got a sharp right-hander coming up. This is Mutkova, and they've got to make sure that they're going to be able to either do this under full flat, or there's going to be some form of lift in here. Let's see how they go through Mutkova, topping off of 123.24. It is a lift. Down to 99 mile an hour or 20 mile an hour lift. Ben Borman's going to make it through on the left-hander now as well. Is he going to get it done? He is. Can he hold it? That's going to be the question here for Ben Borman. Is he going to be able to stay in front? He is. He slides that little skateboard round. Now they're coming up into the carousel, and Ben Borman got that, and great job from him.
Yeah, I told you their battle wasn't over. A good run from Ben Borman to get that pass through, but I still think Scar Pope will try to make another run on him as we go through the carousel here.
Where?
Along 19 minutes to go. Plenty of time left here, and these two are neck and neck, back and forth. I still think there's plenty of battle left from them, and we'll see what happens. Div 1-2 delivering as they always do, and I think Barker and David Junt are just a couple of seconds separated, so we'll see if that gap closes as they continue along.
Yeah, we're now down to less than 20. Dan Scott has DNF'd. We can only but presume. He entered the bits and DNF'd, Brad. I'm wondering if there was some orders, I suppose.
It wouldn't surprise me, because when you have a moment like that, and again, remember that we've had one race end in utter catastrophe this year due to that. It kind of wouldn't surprise me if they just politely said in his ear, "Hey, you need to do something." Maybe he DNF'd of his own accord, but it would not surprise me if there was a bit of a strong suggestion placed forward.
Oh, your diplomacy is okay. I think there may have been a word that said, "Excuse me, son, park it." It has been out in the outskirt, in the community bit. He did say he didn't do any sort of shortcut. He just overcooked his pit box, and it gave him a extra lap. But look, I'm not. This is neither nor your place to say, Brad, on that one. You know me, I love a little bit of controversy, but yeah, we're only but presuming there may have been some form of conversation to take place for Dan Scott as we're coming into the last 16 minutes there.
It would not surprise me, so we'll see. I don't know. I'm sure we'll find out in the post race, and there will be something somewhere to find out what happened. We talked about George Angelidis, and I want to bring George Angelidis up because he is currently the only driver in Div 3M, and we talked about this earlier. He's got 16 minutes to finish a track that he has avidly admitted he's not a fan of, as we discussed with Ross. We'll see how he does there, but as you said, James, we've seen plenty of times where it can come down to the final lap, the final corner, and someone bends it through. So we'll see how that one ends. Dahlgren in the lead here. We speculated earlier on how that would go with his 60-second penalty, and Dahlgren seems to be up by 7.8 seconds. It is slowly closing to Nicholas, but I don't know if a lot will be had here in 15 minutes.
Right, okay, so we'll keep an eye and see what goes on as gaps appearing all the way through the field.
Oh, George!
George has gone and hit the wall.
Why did I say his name?
That's on the final corner coming out of Tiergarten. And that's exactly what I mean with the final corner. It's interesting, isn't it?
Legal disclaimer, the Commentators Curse does not exist here in the JP Broadcasting Network or in CMS Racing. Any speculation of the Commentators Curse does not exist, and you cannot claim the Commentators Curse on me. Thank you, that is all. To log your complaints, please message one Mr. JP Broadcasting directly on Discord. He will take up your complaints from there.
Thanks. You've literally just sold me under the bus, so there we go. Right. David Junt has got Cameron Barker about 3.5 seconds up the road. That's a possible situation of maybe being caught. I'm going to run through the possible battles. JT Tammy might catch Bradley Sellers, but however, last lap, he was quicker than Brad, so we'll see if Sellers gets his, see what he does over the lap there. But there may have been something in, and Brad did pit, so it's possible that that's a irrelevant time. Everybody else, Junt has gone back out to 4.5 seconds to Barker, but doing that in the car is not going to assist you in that Alfa Romeo Giulia whatsoever. You may want to keep it on track. They're currently at going up through Adenau Forest and out the other side. Luca Tavanari, 5.9 seconds back from Scar Pope. Not too sure if that's actually going to happen. I think Scar might have a little bit more pace than that. And other than that, there's no real exciting thing happening on the racetrack at this moment in time.
Yeah, but, you know, we expected that with Nords a little bit. We expected the race to spread out. We expected everyone to kind of get on their own pace. We talked about that this is more of a race against yourself than it necessarily is a race against other drivers. While we have seen, you know, side-by-side battles that have ended in fireworks and ended in question marks and ended in civil disagreements here in the commentary booth, you know, we expect this to be a race of attrition and a race to make it to the end on your own to a degree. We know everyone has slightly different pace, and survival of the fittest is how you prevail out at the end of Nords with 12 and a half minutes left to go and about a lap and a half left.
Yeah, not long at all, 12 minutes and for Magnus Dahlgren, so he hasn't got very long whatsoever. Michael Lock in the Div 1, Div 2 AM lead there. So doing a great job. Robert Molin leading the Div 1-2 Pros. Angelidis leading the Div 3 AMs, but there was only 2 of them. So it was a 50-50 shot that he was going to go and win. Dahlgren leading the Div 3s by 8.5 seconds. Dahlgren's just on his way out of the carousel. And it's got 8.5 seconds over Nick Kirsten. Suvic too far back. Sellers too far back. I think this could be necessarily the finishing order of your standings. Dahlgren, Molin, Angelidis and Locke. Unless anything dramatic happens here, Brad. I think we are as we are here.
Yeah, but as we saw with George, we can't see dramatics in. We've talked about it several times. You can't see dramatics in. And this is the point where when you've been running this, again, they've only done 10 laps at this point, but it's that 10 laps of mental capacity, just completely challenging. These long tracks are a completely different beast to deal with. So we'll see how it ends, how it goes. And as we come up here, 11 minutes now to go. And yeah, it's crazy to think that we've only seen 10 laps today, and it'll be 11 when we're done. It's absolutely shocking to think that we've only seen that much racing.
And we're here, and we've been here for coming up to close to 100 minutes.
Yeah.
It seems so bizarre, doesn't it? When you say it like that, it seems so weird that we've been at this 100 minutes, but we are on a circuit that takes over nearly 9 minutes to get round. So, you know, fair play. And let's be real about it. These guys have literally had to put the mental capacity in. But I suppose it would be no different to doing the Nords 24, would it? Really, in the modern day GT3 series.
Yeah, and the Nords 24 is one that, you know, I want to try to run in iRacing, and it's challenging. I'm not gonna lie. I do respect the drivers that go into the endurance racing and do that challenging endurance racing action of running hundreds of minutes through and putting in competitive times consistently. It's something that does take a lot of effort to learn to do, and it takes a lot of time to develop the skill and endurance to do it. So if you're a driver that can go in and put in 100 laps of the Nordschleife for 24 hours or however much you want to run in whatever your simulator is, kudos to you, because it is something that I will openly admit I am not able to do.
That's the only way I think you get to learn the track. If I hadn't done well over, I don't know, probably 600, 500 laps on comms at the Nords, I wouldn't know where we were. Do you know what I mean? I think there's a lot of benefits coming out of it. I think if you ask some of these guys if they've done 100 laps on this race circuit, they'll probably tell you, return around and go, no. I literally rocked up a practice and hoped for the best. But the more you do, the better you get at it. And I think that's where Dahlgren shine. If we ask Magnus when he comes into the booth, how many laps practice have you done? I would literally be very, very shocked if he turns around and went, I didn't do any. I was just using the practice at the beginning of the session. I would be shocked.
There's no way that he's done that little. And
no, Dahlgren has gone into the pit lane as well, and he's missed his pit box.
No.
Dahlgren missed his pit box, and Scarpope is having a nice little bit of a ding-dong here with Luca Tavanari. I can tell you now, Dahlgren has lost the lead to Nick Kirstens. Timon Suvic is in. If Kirstens finishes this race at this moment in time, he should win this race. So that's drama. Scarpope, Luca Tavanari, going at each other here as well. Tavanari going in through and getting in front. They've got George Angelidis up the road. He's been about as predictable as when it's going to rain in the UK at the moment, because it's been on and off all day. So we're going to, so we'll see what happens on that one. But at the moment, Nick Kirstens is out in front in the lead of the race. Look at Tavanari trying to get past Angelidis. He needs Angelidis. I don't know what he needs, but he needs Angelidis not to do that. Not to do that. Oh, don't wreck it on the final lap. Do not finish this race on the final lap with you guys stacking it into each other. Angelidis moving out the way. Tavanari scoots around the outside. This is on the run into Kleins right at the end of the circuit here. Left hand they go. Now they're going to be coming up through Galgenkopf and onto the Dalton. And I think Luca got past Angelidis. Scar Pope now to try and do the same thing. But George Angelidis is in a dip 3. Scar Pope is in a 1-2. And the speed difference of the div 3 is going to be huge down this Dalton. As I say, on the modern day circuit, it's over 1,700 meters long, as I worked out. Now watch Angelidis, he's going to pass Tavanari. He's going to breeze past Tavanari. Like, Tavanari's not even there. George topping north of 163. Tavanari topping north of 140. 20-mile-an-hour difference there. And is Tavanari going to catch George again when they go back into Nords once more?
Yeah, it looks like he will catch him. Again, we'll see how... It'll be close. I think it'll be close as they go through one more lap of full action. Look at the way... I love the way the cars fly up the hill here into this hard braking zone, downshifting hard, and now you just fling it through up into the stadium section, and man... Does anyone need to make another pit stop is my only concern or question. And it looks like anyone who needed to is doing that now. George is into the pits and around. And there goes Scar Pope saying, adios, see you later. And Scar Pope, you have 14 miles to try to make something happen.
It makes no difference with Angelidis. Do you know, as excited as I want to get for George winning the race, it's tough because it was a 50-50 shot that he was going to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was 50-50. I do want to pick up on Michael Locke, David Backer, Celadon further down. They're only 1.3 seconds apart at the moment, and they're battling for the lead in the Div 1, Div 2s. So if we can just give them a little bit of an airtime, because they've done a great job in actually finishing the race, and they're on their run down the final couple of corners and into the start-finish section. They're actually side by side now as well, so we can pick up on Celadon and Michael Locke. That would be amazing, as Michael Locke has just lost the lead of the race. There you go, Celadon has just got through in the Div 1, Div 2 AM, so this is going to be a nice close finish at the base of the Div 1, Div 2s, and they've got a lap to go here.
Yeah, they're going to be bumper to bumper coming through, and this can come down to a 50-50 shot of who just gets this lap right. And again, 14 miles, plenty of opportunities for errors through the final lap. And hold on to your underwear as you can if you are Baca Celadon, because you need to just nail this final lap. Here we go with Ben Borman, who is in 6th place here, getting put under pressure. We go around, and Ben Borman's going to lose. No, Now that is a save for the ages. That is what I call an absolutely good save from Ben Borman to hold on to that car, but oh man. Okay, they are racing hard for 6th place in the Div 1-2.
Yeah, coming down into Arenberg now, Borman and Tavanari. Tavanari's tucked in right behind him. Borman's going to go in the inside. Tavanari's going to run there, tucked in behind him now, coming out of Arenberg, up on the run. Well, it's actually downhill, believe it or not. They go down into the dip now, and then they do on the modern day. This is a little bit more flatter, but they go down the dip and then up the other side into Adenau, which is the fast left-hander, which is blind at the top of the hill. And then they go left, and then they'll go right. So there's a right-hander, and then they'll go left, tuck it all the way, pull it all the way round, and then we've got a right-hander out of Adenauer Forest and on the way down into Metzgertsfeld further down here. But Bormann is still there. The gap down in the 1-2, Celadon has opened up about a second over Michael Lock, but you can see on your screen Bormann is still under attack. Tavanari's on the inside, side by side through at the moment now. Great job from Tavanari into the left-hander. Over the crest we're going to go. Then down the other side into the right-hander of Callanard. Then they're coming through long right. Now it's a straight run. And Tavanari seems to have buried that over Ben Bormann at the moment. And he's opened up a bit of a gap. Tavanari throwing that car round the right-hander. Absolutely doing a stellar job. He's on the grass. He catches that grass again. There is a right and a turn 90-degree left here. There's a 90-degree left here. Tavanari just gets it through. Then comes out of the other side and then on their run again. Wow. Tavanari really showed it.
Yeah, Tavanari with a very clean pass, lots of pace, looks very comfortable with that Alfa Romeo, and is looking on pace to hold on to P6 here. But again, still plenty of track left, plenty of action left to go through. Barker and Robin Moling, and possibly a battle for the win in Div 1-2 as we go through 2.7 seconds. Plenty of time left here. The gap's now opening up to 3 seconds, so I don't think Barker's going to catch. For a brief moment, I thought there was something there. So,
but there might be, and the reason I say that is Molin's got JT Tammy literally in front of him. He can't do anything with the beast from the Corvette, and the Alfa Giulia is tucked in, and Molin is almost pushing JT Tammy out the way. He knows Barker's coming. 2 seconds wiped off for Robert Molin. Tammy covering him off again. There was contact. Is Molin going to go? Oh, he's not. JT in that Corvette is making it as difficult as it ever wants to be for Robert Molin. And the Div 3 is quicker, but the Div 1-2s through the corners just seems to have the mix here. Robert Molin trying to go round JT Tammy. JT Tammy, the roadblock, the cork in the bottle, the square object into a round hole is not letting him through. He's going to cover him off. There's going to be contact. Tammy's in a... Molin's in a... They're still going. Oh my dearie me. This is Inclines Carousel as well. This is Inclines. This is the last part of the circuit. It doesn't matter if Molin goes through. JT Tammy's going to come out of Galgenkopf. He's going to use that extra 20 mile an hour, and he's going to say, adios, signore. I am going through, whether you like it or not. But now he's holding him up. Down in the bottom, you can see on the bottom corner there, Nick Kirsten's going to come over the line. Kirsten's going to wrap up the win. Kirsten's wins 100 minutes of Nords. And wow, for Nick Kirsten's. Watch JT Tammy. He's just going to come and say, adios. As he goes straight past. All the way. Done for JT. Takes them back there. Robin Molin. Aka, great job. Kirsten's, Dahlgren, Seller, you're 1, 2, 3 in Div 3. Dahlgren and Sellers are very... Oh, they finished. That's fine. What about Robin Molin and Cameron Barker? Is Molin going to get there? Down through Tiergarten they go. Up the other side, through the left, through the right. Now they're coming in again. He's going to be on the brakes. If Molin's going to do it, or Barker's going to do it, he's got to do it now. Round the final corner. Round the final corner. Molin and Barker's going to come over the line, separated by half a second on that one. Great job from him. Where is Mr. Angelidis? Angelidis is over the fence.
What has happened to George?
I have no idea. Oh, he ran. That's Brunchen as well. He's run wide coming out the first part. Watch this. He's going to run wide coming out the first part of Brunchen, and end up the other side of the fence. The problem is that fence line runs all the way up around the rest of the half of the circuit. He would have had to do half of the circuit, actually nearly all of the circuit for Angelidis, the other side of the fence. So he had to back up because he was never going to look. This is all still part of the fence coming out of Brunchen on the right-hand side there. So he would have had to go from Brunchen right the way round to Kleins, and that is still the other side of the fence. But that's why he had to reverse, Brad.
Yeah, and that is it's unfortunate to see that situation happen, but again, thankfully for George, he can just put it in reverse and get his way through. Now is the long process of waiting for all of our drivers to get through, and George Angelidis doing very well to put himself here into a win. Slams the wall there and needs to just nurse this car back the rest of the way. Comes to carousel now.
Yeah, Saladon is not too far behind him. This is obviously, it really doesn't matter because once Galgankov gets out the way, the long right-hander, George is just going to go zipping off. But Celadon, Baka Celadon is in the background there. So for him, and he's got Gilles Lalonde tucked it right behind him, both of 1-2, obviously Gilles 1-2 Pro, Celadon 1-2 Am on the ones and twos there, if anybody was a DJ. That's what they used to be called. But yeah, George is going to go and just absolutely sprint away now like an absolute banshee, topping north of 160 miles an hour. Although we've only done 12 laps, I enjoyed that. I still enjoyed that race. I thought it was good. Yeah, there was a lull in the middle, but then that's nothing different to watching. There's nothing different to watching modern day F1, right? Let's be real about it. You eat first 10 laps, you eat your dinners. Next 50, you go to sleep and wake up for the last 10. So that was no different. But I actually really enjoyed that race.
Yeah, there was plenty of action all the way through, plenty of drivers pushing, and George Angelidis coming through the final corners here. Might be the only car in class, but I tell you what, he survived the Nords, and that is sometimes all you can ask for is George Angelidis, a driver who, again, we said very adamant about his opinions on this track. Brings it across and wins.
David Bakker Celadon takes the win in the 1-2 AMS there. Comes over the line just behind George. Great job from Mr. Bakker Celadon. I hope I'm saying your last name right. It sounds like it when I pronounce it. So great win from him in that Porsche 904 GTS. Well done on that one. If I sounded it out, you know, that would be how it is in the modern day phonics. So there we go. Let's have a catch up on the results here. We will bring them up on your screen very, very shortly. Just like to put the total. We had 19 finished. Nick Kirstens in first, Magnus Dahlgren in second place, Bradley Sellers in third, then your Timon Suvic in fourth, JT Tummy in fifth, Robert Molin winning the Div 1-2 Pros with Cameron Barker tucked in behind it, David Judd, Dan Herlock and Oliver Day is in your top 10. Moving on from that one, we've got Luca Tamanari, Ben Borman, who had a nice battle towards the end. Scar Pope ended up down in 13th. That's a shame for him. And Neil Wood in 14th. George Angelidis leading, let's just say he had a 50-50 shot of winning the Div 3 AMs, and he did go and do that. That's great for him and in the teams. David Bakker Celadon takes the Div 1-2 AM win. There was Stuart Lalonde. Michael Locke in second and Eric Monet. Now, Monet DNF'd, Dan Scott DNF'd. I'm wondering if Monet will be classed as a podium, but I don't think he will. On that one, Newman DNF, Bursenick, Ross Smith, where we saw what happened to Bursenick and Smith. That wasn't even their fault. What's worse is the man who wasn't officially alongside, finished in second. Now that's a kick in the teeth. Santiago Dan caught in 24th, Wood Brood in 25th, Adam Gray in 26th, Jerry Chen 27th, Reece Gardner 28th. All of these are DNF'd, of course, on that one. So there you go. That is the results for today. And I do you know what, Brad? I absolutely thought that was great. I thought that was a good race.
I absolutely enjoyed that race, but of course I am a lover of the Nords and everything that the Nürburgring can bring. So It doesn't surprise me that I enjoyed this race. It doesn't surprise me knowing your affiliation with the Nords that you enjoyed this race. And so this is one of those situations where I'm very, very happy to see how this race turned out. I know this track isn't everyone's cup of tea, but it's a track that brings action, it brings chaos, and you can have a moment where out of nowhere cars randomly end up in a wall and you end up with 3 cars that, have a bit of a ding dong, as you like to say, James, going through.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to have to pattern that, because Alex Goldschmidt the other day on Thursday was also turning around going, as you like to say, James, they're having a right little ding dong. So I'm going to stick that under a rules pattern of JPB, I think, on that one as well. So Brad, you owe me £1 for saying it, all right? Just to let you know. All right, so there we go. I tell you what, let's bring some interviews into the booth. Let's start with Mr. Robert Molin. Are we ready? Can I get a yes from the producer that we are ready? Yes? Okay, cool. We'll bring in Mr. Robert Molin there, who won absolutely, well, first off, he survived. Now, that was one of the biggest achievements here as well, don't forget. But he did then go on and win the Div 1, Div 2s. Robin, welcome in. How are you, buddy?
Oh, sweaty. It was quite a drive. Very exhausted. Difficult track for sure.
Yeah. Listen, you survived though, right? That's good.
Yeah, I mean, I had damage like everywhere at some point, but I didn't hit a wall. I think, oh, actually I did, but yeah, it's nothing too bad. Steering was still straight, so
I do love your philosophy of I didn't hit a wall, but all I remember seeing was a wooden lamppost with barbed wire. Was there any walls at Nords for this layout, Robin, or was it all just fences?
Good point. I think it was more natural, yeah. I had one moment in the final corner after I passed Tommy on the straight. Or not on the straight, that was impossible. I mean, in the middle sector somewhere, and then I saw him in my mirror, and I was like, "Oh God, he's gonna get me on the straight." And I just lost focus for like half a second, turned in a bit too late in that fast chicane at the end, and then I just outbraked myself. I was like, "Oh, just hold my brakes, hope I don't break the car."
Yeah, but dude, listen, we sit here up in the booth, right, and we comment on, you commentate on you guys driving around, and you just tell us from a driver's point of view, how tough is Nords in a 64 historic?
It's incredibly difficult. Like it's not just the difficulty of the track itself, like remembering where you are, remembering how much speed to carry into these corners. The brakes aren't great as well, so like sometimes you just overshoot a corner. It's extremely difficult to do like a perfect lap. But the difficulty is also in the gearing, because like you only have like 5 gears to use, and then you need to get it right in every corner. Need to know when to shift, when not to shift. It's really difficult in my opinion. And then obviously add the cast to that you're racing. Jesus. Sometimes you have somebody in front of you, he's throwing up dust, you can't see a thing. Like, I'm incredibly happy with this result, especially because I had the penalty at the start from last round, which totally deserved, but I still managed to find the time somewhere, so quite happy with that.
Oh, dude, look, I can't sing praises on anybody who goes and finishes the race. Do you know what I mean? You survived 100 minutes of a racetrack with over 174 corners on, and you survived. And that alone, you can get off this and give yourself a massive pat on the back, dude, because that's an achievement in its own right. But listen, I could say I'll talk to you all day. It's been great having a chat with you. Is there anyone you want to shout out before we let you go?
I mean, obviously the winner in Division 3, like Jesus, he was doing some crazy pace. On the other hand, like behind me, I think it was Cameron Baker. Like he was catching me at a rate of knots. Like he was matching me one lap. He was quicker another. Like it was like a virtual battle for some time. And he was really hounding me. Thank you for your congratulations. And yeah, I do give myself a pat on the back afterwards. But thank you to the commentary team as well. And yeah, Cameron was, shout out to him. He was driving really well.
Oh, dude, listen, absolutely amazing. So fair play, Robin, on that one. Thank you so much for talking to us. It's been a pleasure. And we'll catch up with you at the next one.
Yeah, likewise. Yeah, hope we can speak again. See you guys.
I'm sure we will. Take care. Bye. Right, next up, I'm going to bring in the Div 3. I'm going to start with Mr. Angelidis here as well. Let's have a chat with George Angelidis, the man who come out at the beginning of this race and said, well, I can't repeat it said, but it started with S and it ended with T. He then had a 50-50 chance of winning the race as there was only two, him and Jerry Chen. Jerry went out earlier on. That has put the man himself in with a chance of the championship. It'd be interesting to see how the points come out. And he might just do the double with the teams as well. It's going to be an interesting one, but let's see on his opinion on a circuit that he absolutely hates. Mr. George Angelidis. George, how are you, bud?
I'm exhausted. Mentally incapacitated completely. Yeah, I guess it's known now that I hate Nürburgring, right?
It was mentioned, brother. It was mentioned.
Yeah. What can I say about this race? I mean, I started with. I know Jerry doesn't like the track either, and he's a little bit slower than me. So I just wanted to go at the beginning. I had a good start. I think Jerry stalled on the grid, and I said, "Oh, okay, that's the best start I could have." And then I was following a couple of Division 1 and 2s, and I was faster than them. I said, like, okay, I'm gonna sit behind and relax. And I got so relaxed. I was not on any gas or brakes into those corners, and the car started drifting. I mean, cold tires, cold track, fully fueled car, and start drifting to the outside, touched the grass, scraped the fence, and then went and did a pirouette. There. Thankfully, it hit the back of the car, so the trunk was smashed, but the engine was intact. And then I was at the back of the grid. Then I started to catch up the Division 1 and 2s, and I caught Jerry just before the straight. Slipstreaming, and I said, okay, so this is gonna be he's gonna put a tough fight for the entire race. And we're passing a couple of Division 1s. There was a lot of movement on the straightaway for Division 1 and 2 cars, and I don't understand that. They should have kept the racing line.
Right, I'm going to cut in, George. I'm sorry, I'm going to cut in there for a minute. Now, when you watch that back with the contact with Jerry Chen and Dan Scott, as it went up the hill, Dan's car got loose. He was not turning. As he went up the other side, he went up the hill, and as he went from flat to up, the car got loose and went left. He was not turning left. I looked on board and he was not turning left. So he wasn't moving. It just, as he went up the hill, the car got loose. So I'm sorry for cutting you off, but that's what
that's
I thought happened.
That's important information. Yeah, that's unlucky then, because it just hit Jerry at the right time, I guess. I somehow miraculously avoided that. Between the two cars, actually, so I don't know how that happened. Did Jerry get permanent damage there? Like, did his engine...
Yeah, DNF'd straight after.
So after that, basically, the entire race was me not binning the car and getting the points, because I could still run, and if I DNF'd, I would still get 0 points. So I still had to actually bring the car in one piece, and I was having mental fatigue. The car was not all right on the first stint after those contacts. So I was trying to hold on it. I repaired it into the second stint. And then I made a couple of over revs on the downshifts. So the engine was starting being hot a little bit. So then I had to turn that down to make sure that I go into the end, which I've never been so happy to see the checkered flag in modern sim racing. But yeah, that was one of those days.
Yeah, now the interesting thing for me is obviously, the final lap of the race. We did say that literally you just had to bring it home, and you had your moments where we thought, is he nearly actually going to bring it home? But that was an interesting one, George, where you ended up the wrong side of the fence.
Yeah, so that corner, in all my practices and even the race on Tuesday, it has caught me out so many times, and I went wide, and then there is no rejoin.
Nope.
Once you go to the fence, you have to go all the way, crawl it like for the next 7 corners. So the fastest way is to basically back up and then do it. So, and I was very careful of that fence and of that corner for the entire of the race. And then the last lap, I said, okay, this is the last lap. Finally, I can just take it home. And nope, relaxed for 1 lap. And I went out. And you could have, if you had a camera in front of my face when I went wide on that corner, the last point, you would see my eyes getting bigger and bigger. I'd say, oh my God, not on the last lap.
I think for me, it was just funny because I was telling the guys in the booth here that there was no rejoin. Like, you would have had to follow that from Brunchen all the way down to the Dottinger Hoe, practically, basically. But, or actually, Klein's Carousel, I think you might have just been able to get on. But that was going to be a long run. But listen, dude, I could sit here and talk to you all the way through for ages here because, you know, at the moment you've had quite an eventful race. But listen, we'll do that another day. But how is there anyone you want to shout out, bud, before we let you go?
Thanks everybody who showed up on this track. Very tough and very car and track combination. Thanks for you guys for the commentary. I hope we see a couple of more Division 3 AMS guys into the tail bit of the racing, and I think the championship is game on now.
Yeah, it is. I think that's put you well in and well within the opportunity of the teams as well. So good luck. Yeah, Monza in 2 weeks' time, I think it is.
It is. Are you
Take
excited
care, mate.
about that? The old,
I think full
my
layout,
yeah.
oval. Oh, dude, you can the smile on my face right about now because we put in everything on Monza is amazing. I love Monza. So there we go. George, pleasure. Take care, buddy.
Thank you a lot. Bye-bye.
Right, and now after that great conversation with George, I could talk to George all day about his race, Brad. He absolutely exuberates excitement, even when he ends up having a bad one.
Yeah, he you can tell he really has a passion for sim racing and loves what he does. Even if he doesn't like the specific track, he still loves what he's doing. Which, I mean, that's what sim racing is all about, James. Let's be honest.
Absolutely. Let's bring the final man into the booth. He looked like he was going to finish second. And then a Magnus Dahlgren pit stop on the final lap gave him a 16-second lead. It's also going to boost him up in the championship as well, ahead of JT Tammy. I can tell you that much. He's going to put him in probably near Bradley Sellers. So that's going to be an interesting one. But let's bring him in, Mr. Nick Kirstens. Nick, welcome in, bud.
Hello.
Hello, mate. How are you?
Oh, yeah. I'm fine, but it was an exhausting race.
Yeah, it definitely was. Tell us about it.
Yeah, basically, I had a very bad start. I think lost 4 or 5 positions at the start. So, yeah, I immediately started, saving fuel, saving tires, because I knew maybe I could go to half distance then and go through with only 1 stop. Which worked at the end.
Yeah, it was. You did a great job there as well, overtaking Magnus Dahlgren on the final lap of the race. That was an exciting one as well. Penalty also kicking in there for you, Nick, but you did a great recovery. Did you actually think you could win?
I didn't think I could win going into the race, but after we have all served our penalties and after the first round of pit stops, I saw that maybe I would be the only one who goes through on 1 stop, and pace was also relatively good. So the gap to the leaders was, I think, 20 seconds or so at the maximum. Yeah, so mid-race, I was quite optimistic then.
Well, you did a great job, Nick, to be blatantly honest, and well done. And are you looking forward to Monza next time out?
Yes, of course. it's a great track, and yeah, very, very impressive track. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. On that one there as well. Nick, well done. Congratulations on your win. Is there anyone you want to shout out before we let you go?
Just thanks to everyone who took part in the race. Thanks, yeah, you commentator guys and organizers.
Yeah, awesome stuff. Nick, thanks so much for joining us, and look forward to seeing you at Monza. Okay, I'm gonna presume he heard me on that one. Brad, to be fair, yeah, the interviews weren't that bad. They all seemed happy.
Yeah, everyone seemed pretty happy to just survive, which again, that was the big goal of today, and everyone managed to do that fairly well. So I'm quite happy to see everyone through, everyone around, and big congratulations to everybody that made it through to the end of the race and everyone that showed up to even attempt.
Yeah, I think it's been absolutely amazing, as well. There's a bit of a combo going on in the discussion in the Discord, but we'll keep that in the Discord on that one. Dan Erlock in YouTube chat, well, I just about to survive my first race at Nordschleife. Wish I actually had time to practice for this one, as a roller coaster section I don't know very well at all. Yeah, Dan, that's probably kind of essential on that one. I will recommend practicing for next time out. But guys, that's going to bring it to an end, I think, and it's been absolutely epic. I've enjoyed it. Yeah, we had a lull, but hey, don't they in modern F1 as well? But listen, it was a little bit more exciting towards the end of the race than the modern day F1. But on that note, I've been James Parfitt. I've been alongside Bradley Dalton. I've had the bug in me hero of Paul Glover once again for the last 100 minutes. And as always, take care, have a great week, and you never know, we might see you on the track sometime. Good night.